And enough for good girls, Santa baby. So
I wouldn't normally play this, but it's our DJ buddy made this little compilation here. So the same DJ, Bitcoin DJ, that created the theme song for this show. That's off user.
All I hear is you talking.
I apologize. Terrence, India sent me a Christmas greeting.
Are we going to hear it?
Yeah. Did you know that he actually does those singing a telegram things? Let me cue that up for you here. Here he is.
Jingle on the way. Oh, our friend, still way on the way. Dash into the name. When the way, jingle bell. Oh, jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle on the way. Oh, our friend, still way on the way.
Prices determine the value of money.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Darkside's going to actually host a Bitcoin Today space on Christmas Day. Shout out Darkside for doing that. I will be hanging out with my family on Christmas Day.
Get that education going. This is Bitcoin now.
It don't look now, but Bitcoin is on fire.
What's Bitcoin doing? Eric Rice, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Day before Christmas Eve. How you doing, Lauren? How you doing, Terrence?
I'm a little under the weather. We're having flooding in my area, but other than that, wonderful. Life is good. Amazing time to be alive.
At least you're tall, right? The flooding's not gonna affect you.
Is that the problem?
Or you have a snorkel? Yeah, aren't
Well,
you
I
like
do. All the
6'6"
above.
or something?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you being a couple inches taller than me. Yeah.
Just barely. Just barely. He's got you by a few millimeters.
But Lauren, since you've thrown
Spit it out, Terrence.
Well, you've
Cat
thrown
got your
Eric
tongue.
into the news anchor desk, and yesterday our show he set it for 8:30 p.m. This morning he's got video going. It's like you can't just take the intern and throw him in the main desk. You got to put him through a little training program.
Bada boom, bada bing, bada.
Yeah, I'm not an executive producer. I'm definitely the talker of the bunch. Yeah, my apologies. I don't know what I always do this stuff like late at night when I'm in the middle of dealing with kids or work or something, and I'm like, oh, I got to launch this. I pushed the wrong button. So here we are. We're here.
Oopsies.
That's what matters. We're here. It's not the journey; it's the destination, my friends. We're here. It is the day before Christmas Eve. We're all healthy. We're happy, I hope. We are here waiting on Bitcoin to move. We're waiting on the world, to change, I suppose, if that's even possible. But we are here, and that's what's important.
And then lots of metals flying through the roof, essentially.
Through the roof. That could.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Oh, Pink. There's Pink.
Pink shirt guy's here. Morning, Pink.
But is Humble here? Is Humble here?
No, I think Humble fell off the soundboard. Crashed on Bitcoin tonight, apparently.
Lauren's little play school soundboard only has 4 buttons, Eric. So he has to
Yours
rotate.
is bigger than mine, huh?
Yeah, he needs $20 more to get the 6-button one.
We're starting a Christmas pledge for a new soundboard.
Well, let's go around a little bit here. Give everybody some time to settle in. Head over to Bitcoin Today. Should be a great conversation. I think there's awesome things brewing for Bitcoin right now. And like we've been talking about, I think this stuff is cyclical and ordered. And I think it goes gold, silver, platinum, Bitcoin. And platinum is now up 20% on the week. That is really the last one to pop. Palladium popped already. Gold, we've watched the rise of gold. I think silver is up 144% this year, and platinum is up 20% in a week. When a precious metal moves 20% in a week, big things are coming for hard assets, all hard assets. And nothing's harder of an asset than Bitcoin. And I think that Bitcoin, for the smart financial guys today, I think if you guys are paying attention to this, December 26th, I kind of look at it and say, there's always options expiring at the end of the month. This is a massive amount, something like $53 billion in Bitcoin options expire on the same day, on the 26th. And, Fred's power law, if Fred's power law is correct, then we should be shooting towards 118 relatively quickly. So don't know if any of that'll happen. I don't know if I don't really kind of play that game. I love the anticipate and project and theorize game for sure, but I also like being grounded a little bit in reality, and I'd rather be reactionary and be positioned for that reaction properly. And in metals, I have been for years, and Bitcoin, I believe I will be as well. So be confident in your position. Bitcoin is in line, I believe, once metals pop. You got to think of it this way. If platinum continues to run, silver continues to run, there are people buying silver right now, but $70 silver, no one's ever bought, so literally in the history of mankind, no one's ever bought silver at $70. So there will be unit bias into other assets, just like you see everywhere. So silver is still relatively cheap at $70 an ounce for a precious metal. Platinum's at 2,100, which is where gold was a year ago, a little over a year ago. So things are going to get crazy. They're going to get kooky. And I think that anyone kind of doubting the crack up boom thesis that Dark has been talking about for a year is, missing something. They may be right that he's wrong. In the end, we don't know how things turn out, but certainly that thesis is playing out right before us. What do you guys think?
If central banks and institutions are the ones that started this charge or have mostly been buying, it is retail even aware of it yet? Are they buying precious metals, or is this really just the central banks because they're the ones that are printing, so they know what's coming?
Well, I put it this way. So, in my opinion, having been in both, I guess, communities, I think that there are far more silver bugs that you don't hear of on the internet. They're not internet people. They're definitely, keep to themselves type folks. Like many of you guys know, like I buy my beef with tiny coins of gold. So there's a lot of them out there. They're not necessarily loud on the internet. But I think that there are a lot of people that have been waiting for this for 30 years. And 30 years later, they were right. Sometimes it takes 30 years to be right, but when you're right, you're right. And I think that that community is much larger than people give it credit for. I really do. But I think the Bitcoin community is louder, and I think that that's going to benefit us in the end.
So Eric, so I have about 5 pounds of silver, and I use it as a paperweight. It's on my desk. I melted down old silverware and whatnot, that my parents gave me, and I'm like, I'm never going to use this stuff. Um, I wouldn't even know what to do or how to sell it without being scammed or some huge, vig taken off of it. Like, where would I go? Like, would I just go to a pawn shop with that?
I mean, you could. You could certainly go to a pawn shop, a gold and silver broker. That's probably your best bet. Is that Cash for Gold guy that you drive by 1,000 times a year and never think twice about? The guy who's literally raking in cash right now. I made it a point when I moved to Texas to get to know all of these guys. So I have one person I trust, and it's pretty simple process. I'm being sarcastic here. First of all, you got to load it in your car. You got 5 pounds. You got to put in your car. When you put it in your seat next to you, the sensor for the seatbelt will go off. So be prepared for that. I would advise if it's legal in your state, I would advise carrying a weapon with you because you never know who's waiting in the parking lot for you to leave with cash. Most people right now, as I said yesterday, most metals guys are actually paying in checks because there's just as much selling as buying. The big buying is being done through institutions. Retail is kind of selling off right now, as they should, because retail's been holding. I've been holding silver since $11, so I went and sold a little bit. Paid a little down on one of the only debt we have outside of our house is my wife's lease for her car. So I paid a little bit of that down, just got rid of that monthly bill, and I bought more Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is going to rip in January or in February, somewhere in that time. So I'm not really impatient. I'm not an impatient person by any stretch of the imagination. That's something I've worked on vigorously for the last decade. And Terrence, that's the model. Like, you literally have to put it in a bag. If it's heavy enough, get a rice bag. It's what's commonly used in metals. Your seatbelt alert will go on in the passenger seat. So put it on the floor and bring a buddy. I always bring a buddy with me, another armed guy. He'll sit in the car and watch the parking lot while I go in there. Very few guys will give you cash. You're going to get a check primarily. So you go sell your metals, you get a check, you deposit it in the bank, you wait 3 to 5 days later, and then you can buy some Bitcoin. Or you can, buy Christmas presents or whatever. So let's kick off today before we hop into the details. I apologize. I'm going to apologize. He's not on here today, and I hope he's not on here because of yesterday. But I'm going to apologize to Sam. Sam feels like I slighted him yesterday in his opening speech. That was not my intention at all. I love you, Sam. I hope to God you understand that. I think the system kicked him off the panel. I did not, and I know Terrence did not. Sometimes, guys, these things get wacky. Like right now, I'm looking at Dr. D. He was a speaker a minute ago. Now he's a listener. I don't know if he's still a speaker. But when I go on other spaces, I get kicked off the panel all the time and have to re-raise my hand. Lauren will testify to that. I annoy the crap out of them sometimes when I have something to say. So I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. I sincerely did not mean to slight Sam. I love what Sam adds to the community. I love him as a person. I met him in Santa Monica briefly, and he's just a ray of light, and I love him, and I hope he comes back up here. So let's kick off by saying hi to everybody. We got Dr. D up here. What's up, brother?
Hey man, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. You don't sound good, man. You all right?
Oh, just I'm just very tired of all this bull posting since all my friends in Bitcoin world think the world is ending because we're still at, let me check, $87,000 Bitcoin. I am so confused right now. I have to say, and I saw Joe's message above. I'm not gonna hate on Joe. Joe is one of the sort of calm voices in the storms. But I have to say, if there has ever been a tweet that was more of a bottom signal than that tweet, like I
What
would be
was the tweet?
surprised. It's up there in the, I think Lauren B. Hodel put it up there. It said, I'm going to read it. And I can't do the Joe voice, but you just gotta, I'll try to do the Joe cadence, which is during my time in Bitcoin. I'm just kidding. Sorry. During my time in Bitcoin, during my time in Bitcoin since 2015, sentiment has never been worse. Today, I talked to a friend who, he said today twice, which tells me this was from the heart. Today, I talked to a friend today who has held since 2017. He is seriously considering selling his entire 7-figure position. He didn't think about selling in 2022 at the FTX bottom. This really feels different. Um, and I wanted to say, that's awesome. That is such a good bottom. In fact, what I would recommend for everybody is, and I'm not a chart person, as everybody knows, I actually like make fun of them. But if you look at a 3-month chart, it's like very obvious at the bottom. Like it takes just look at the 3-month chart in a very like objective perspective. Clearly the bottom, and it's so obviously the bottom. Oh my god, the end of the world ever go back up again. Um, we have crossed some issue and this is not the same. It doesn't feel the same. People are saying this is different. This time it won't ever happen again. We'll never see $100,000 Bitcoin. Uh, James Wynn was right. We're all idiots. And that long term, the world will be the same. And you know what I did today? And I put this publicly as well. I bought today one of the largest amounts of Bitcoin that I bought in a very long time because I'm very convinced that we're going to have a very bullish January, February, March. And let me walk you through like the thesis so it'll actually be helpful. Because it's not just like bull posting out of like some, I am not a, I was anti Bitcoin like 2.5, 3 years ago. So I consider myself to be a fair arbitrator of this. So part of this is coming from, look, ultimately, all the liquidity signals are here, right? Like QT has ended, fake QE, I can explain what I mean by that, is here. They're finding other ways to do fake QE, which is super interesting. I think that beyond that, Scott Kapoor, who, again, if you're not familiar with where the seat of power actually is in Washington, it is not Wall Street. Wall Street is completely weak. It's never been weaker. The real seat of power is Sand Hill Road, and Sand Hill Road on the West Coast, and that's A16Z, that's Lightspeed, that's all of these large firms that have essentially co-opted the government. And so I feel very strongly about that commentary. I know there are some people that are like, uh, you know, obsessed with whoever their current cult leader is, but that's not the point. The point is, where is the power? And the power right now is in tech. The technocracy is in power. And right now, Scott Kapoor, who, by the way, founded A16Z but was not in the name. If you founded something and your name wasn't in there, you're probably the person that we should be watching. Remember that. That's a really important life lesson. And so Scott Kapoor is now the head of Office of Personnel Management, OPM. By the way, they have now more government jobs are gone under his leadership than pretty much ever in the history of the government, which again, people can think one way or the other, but that's how powerful he is. Okay. He came out and he replied to Zach Weinberg. Zach Weinberg is one of the most well known VCs, investors. He was the founder of Flatiron Health, if you're not familiar. Zach Weinberg came out and said, hey, people just don't understand that the answer here is not reducing government spending. The answer here is to grow out of our problem. And he retweeted him and he said, Zach is right. This is what most people don't understand is that we cannot get austerity. Austerity is not possible. And that what we actually need to do is grow our way out of this problem. Howard Lutnick, who by the way was a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein, but we're not going to talk about it too much. He
Oh, we will. We're going to talk
also
about
has
Howard
come out and
Lutnick
said
today for sure.
he has come out and said, and by the way, he's also, you know, still involved with Cantor Fitzgerald, no matter what people say. And so, by the way, his company is reliant on more liquidity, and he has come out and said that we're going to grow out of this problem. Scott Bessent, who, if people don't remember, worked for this guy named Soros. Again, they're all corrupt, everybody on both sides, on every side. That's like the day you start realizing that, you're like, oh, they have to print money. He has come out and said that we're going to have to grow out of this problem. And I think 2026 is going to be the Goldilocks year that's going to rip. Nobody's going to see it coming except for the people on the inside. Just like we expected in 2025, I think they've been able to get good positioning in 2025 so they can make 2026. And I will say this, 2027 will be reminiscent of 2021. And everyone will say in 2027, we will never go back to bad days again. And that's when the credit crisis will come, because credit crises come from hyper liquidity when it's not deserved. That's like one of the most important lessons that we have ever learned, right? Like think like 2006, 2007, 2008. Think exuberance. Think dot-com bubble. Think even 2020, 2021. It's all hyper exuberance, which is going to come in um, in 2027. So if you're selling in 2020 at the end of 2025, you're literally selling at the perfectly wrong time. Just my two thoughts. Eric, sorry to go on this diatribe. I try my best not to do these anymore,
No,
but
you're
I
you're
went
good.
off.
Yeah,
I apologize.
everyone on my spaces always takes their hello for about 12 minutes, and that's cool. You're kicking it off, dude. You're kicking it off exactly where I was going to go, and and I think that that is very pertinent information. I'm going to get into after we say hello to everyone. So stay here, Dr. D. You're on point with me. Gregory, what's going on today, my friend?
Hey, I did want to, since we talked about our friend Joe. Joe and I have a long history. We became estranged when he was, sending me nasty notes about Larry's book and how he's a doomer and like all of that stuff. So, like as far as Joe, I can't really understand the guy. Although, we're not really enemies, 100%. I would say, it's the long view, right? That like if you take the thesis that we're sitting here from '08, and we've just got to
Well, I think his post is accurate. That post that and I agree with Dr. D. He's 100% accurate. Sentiment's never been worse, and that's the best signal you can get.
yeah, exactly. And so I think long term Joe and I will reconcile and stuff, but this business of being contrarian or oppositional to figures and leading figures in the space like Lepard, like Dark. And just for whatever Joe's doing, I don't know what he's doing a lot of the times, but the long view is kind of the Booth thesis that we stay decentralized, we stay secure, we're going to win.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you for keeping that short, Gregory. We're going to get right back to you as well. Nova, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, good morning, guys. Just wanted to jump in here and say happy holidays to everybody and happy end of the year and keep up the good work. I love the spaces and And always happy to jump in and say hi to you guys.
Love it, man. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that. Aftermath, what's up?
He's just gonna say GM and then go quiet.
Oh, he always has a delay. There's a delay in his phone, I think. He always mentions that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and decide. Thank you for your vote of support, Terrence. I am fond of you as well. Merry Christmas, everybody. Godspeed. Let's help those who are able to fathom the self-sovereignty of self-custody actually do it. And you guys can help. And you can help. Do good. Thanks for having me. Godspeed.
Love it. Love it. Texas Toast. Love having you up here, man. Texas Toast is part of Bitcoin Veterans, which comes on right before this on X, and it's a fantastic space. How are you today, Texas Toast?
What up? Good morning, Terrence.
That's like I'm chopped liver over here.
How's it going? Yeah, that was Eric saying hello to you, but hi, Texas Toast.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, I
Last
love
time
that.
Texas
Yeah.
Toast Deliver be up here.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Chad, what's going on this morning?
Hey guys, good morning. Eric, epic space yesterday. Just on a personal note, I was skiing with the AirPods in and listening to the hash stuff, and it was like literally my Christmas present to be listening to you guys and Tomer, just kicking out nothing but truth. It was fantastic. Couple things to throw on the calendar here for today. The first is a silver. I think it's fascinating that through time there's like a 17-to-1 ratio, I think. And if that held, we'd be talking that silver should be pricing at like 250 or something. I don't know what we get there. But I do think it's interesting to see if that historical gap closes, if this unwinds. So let's put that on the board. Love to explore that. And the second is jumping on Terrence. Yeah, if I'm on the East Coast and if we do sell silver, 40, I think it's 47th Street in Manhattan is a great place to go where there's enough shops that hopefully will get a decent price. And the last thing to put up there was I was just speaking with somebody else about a power law that just broke, which is gold to Bitcoin. And it's a good example of what a power law looks like when it breaks. And I love Dr. D's bullishness and everything, but my hope is everybody on the call stays solvent enough to enjoy these long-term runs because, from a bullish perspective, I'm looking at, Bitcoin at $100 million in like 2071. Like that's kind of my goal. And that's my morning to everybody. Thanks again for hosting yesterday and cheers. Merry Christmas.
Well, Chad, I appreciate the bullish price on a price that I will be too dead to recognize. I appreciate that. That's super bullish in 2071. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. What about 2035? Where do you see it in 2035?
Well, honestly, I'll take any bet with you. Well, I only ever bet $1 with someone, but let's bet $1. Or how about 10,000 satoshis. By 2037, we will be trading above $1 million, and it's not. This isn't like the power law is great, but it's a projection of like you could be above or below it, right? What I think everybody should do is come up with their own floor, and I use the hash rate as the true floor. Somebody else might find something better for them. That's great, but I really think that I've got 624, 2037, $1 million. I'll bet you 10,000 sats, Eric.
Well, I'll take that bet in dollars because then I'll only lose 32 cents.
I love it.
It's now recorded. I will take a $1 today bet for 2037, which will cost me 32 cents by then, but I'll keep the sats. I love it, Chad. Bram, what's going on this morning, my friend?
Yo, what up? What up, guys? Yeah, fun to join. I only have a few minutes, but nice that someone is talking about the power law. Today I recorded a podcast with Stephen Perrineau, who's a Money or Debt here on X. He's an astrophysicist and a mathematician and deep into all the power law stuff. Actually, the hash rate also follows a power law. Wallets follow a power law. Nodes follow a power law. So it's actually, at least in my opinion, one of the most fascinating topics. But we talked about obviously the power law and like the gold Bitcoin power law that was just mentioned. So just want to plug my own episode for Monday with Stephen, which was mind-blowing for me in a sense that he showed me a lot of like new insights again, which I think are very interesting for people that kind of like see the power law being discussed, etc. I see Eric is laughing. Like I don't only wanted to plug my own stuff, but I also wanted to share what I talked about today. And the 1 million in 2034 is actually like on the trend line, right? So it could be up, it could be low, but the trend line is like 1 million. Just as like the trend line today is probably at like 120K. So we're like really undervalued actually today. 118, yeah. So, and I think the biggest insight he gave me today is that actually the whole idea of the 4-year cycle is wrong. It never really existed. He actually has, the graphs and the tables to prove it. What he showed me was that there are obviously bubbles, which go above the power law trend line and then eventually could go a little bit down below, but eventually we move back to the trend line of the power law. And he showed me that the math says actually that they're going to take longer. So there's going to be longer time in between. So you actually don't really follow like calendar years. You don't really say like 4-year cycle. Well, he if you follow him, he probably has some stuff on his account. But he actually predicts the next like bubble peak to be like mid 2027, and after that, it's around like 2034 or something. So my big realization today is that hodling is going to be way harder in the future. Like the whole cycle, or however you want to call it, like from bubble to bubble, basically is going to be a way longer time. And the 10 million per Bitcoin is probably around like 2045 or something. So just wanted to share that at least I learned a lot of new stuff around this today. And just want to share some things around that. And
Hey,
I'll
Brom,
follow
can
this.
you put that up in the nest? So we have that link.
It's live on Monday, so next week.
Oh, you haven't done it yet.
I recorded, but it's not published. No.
Okay. Do you have it in English too, or just that funny accent you're using?
You know what's funny, guys? I met Terrence in real life, and he's shorter than you think. Yeah, sorry, I have to say something, dude. Like, but
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm a couple inches shorter than Lauren. I told everybody. Yeah,
I'm
like
6'5".
6'5".
So I'm 6'3". Well, no, I don't know. I don't even know in inches. Like, anyway,
I've met Terrence many times.
I love you, Terrence. Terrence, no, I love him.
And I'll say this:
yeah, I love you.
I bet pound for pound he's as strong as anybody in Bitcoin too. That's the main factor. But thanks for pimping your podcast on here, Bram. I appreciate it in the first 10 minutes.
Wow.
No, it's all good. It's all good, man. Your podcast is free. No one has to pay for it. We're totally cool with that.
Love you guys. Yeah, all right.
No worries. Good guy biker. What's going on this morning?
Hey, good morning. Really nice to see you, Lauren. And a lot of friendly faces, Toast. It's been a long time. Used to do this quite a lot. A lot of important stuff to talk about. I left my notepad out. I made some notes so we can stay concise. We don't want to waste anyone's time, but I really appreciate what you guys are doing, spreading the gospel in both aspects. So if there's anything I can contribute, certainly looking to talk about, 3 or 4 positives and then 3 negatives that are, something that we all need to focus on, I think. So appreciate the space.
Absolutely. Where did Danish go?
He didn't like Lauren's opening Christmas jingle.
That may be true, actually.
Maybe he went to the bakery.
No. Well,
Hey, where did Toast go? I wanted to apologize. I was kidding.
where did
He left as well.
Where did Toast go? I love Texas Toast. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Breakfast. Yeah. So I wanted to actually hop into what Danish was talking about, because I couldn't agree with him more. I mean, just from one aspect, we keep hearing the term golden age, and from a biblical aspect, that is a short-lived time of peace and prosperity before difficult times arise. And I think that we are absolutely entering that era. I do think 2026 is going to be a surprise, although I think it's going to be a false golden age. I think the markets will rip, the economy will struggle. Those two things are very bifurcated at this juncture. I think that there will be UBI implemented by 2027. I think that the end of this Trump term is when the difficulties begin. But I think that we are going to see, anyone who's, and I always think it's funny that people bash other people because of their thesis on what may or may not happen in the future. And then there's like massive arguments over it, like power law is right or it's wrong, or crack up boom is right or it's wrong. The true telling measurement of these theses will be time. Like only time will tell if they're correct. So again, I just kind of reiterate this. Any space I'm doing, I love hearing polar opposite ideas and balancing them out on my own. And when I look at stuff like that, I think it's pretty easy to see that time will tell the story of where we are. But I think the next 3 years or 2.5 years for hard assets is going to be the golden. That's where the golden age will occur. And I think that we are going from gold to silver to platinum to Bitcoin. Platinum is up 20%. I think Bitcoin a month or maybe 2 months down the road begins to rip. Whether that's because of the power law or not, I have no idea. I love the justification of theses. I think it's educational all the time. Like you can learn. Even if I vehemently disagree with someone's thesis, there's like 50% of what they're saying is teaching me something I didn't know, and I love that perspective on things. It is an interesting note. I want to talk about this. I found out last night, and I'm sure people knew about this ahead of time. But Cantor Fitzgerald, which is Howard Lutnick's firm, he was on the board since '96, CEO since '98. Stepped down as CEO to become Secretary of Commerce in the government right now. His son Brandon currently runs Cantor, and Cantor developed a product that is going around to mid and large size U.S. importers, and they are buying import refunds at a 20 to 30% discount. So let me explain what that is. It's kind of like buying someone's life insurance while they're still alive. And they're basically saying you've paid, an example would be, you've paid $10 million in tariffs thus far. We're going to offer you $7 million today in anticipation that you'll get a $10 million refund when the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court overturns the tariff policy, meaning they'll bake in a $3 million instant revenue line for them, or instant profit. This is not conjecture, hype, or theory. This is actually happening. I looked it up in 5 different areas. This is definitely a structured product that they're running right now. And I think that's a story in the economy no one's really talking about right now. The way that the tariffs were used to impose seems to be legal. I have no idea what the legal standing is. I will restate this over and over again. A tariff model in America makes perfect sense if there's no income tax. If there is income tax, then we are being double taxed, and there is no way around that. And that may be a procedure. You got to do one and the other, and I don't know. But what I do know right now is there is double taxation. There are American companies laying people off because they can't afford the import policy. And we are not collecting $18 trillion in tariffs. That is a ludicrous made up number. The actual number is around 213 billion. We've distributed or offered to distribute $1 trillion of $213 billion thus far. I'm not saying I have a clue what's going on, but I think the market should. What I want to get from the smart guys out there is what happens if this tariff policy is overturned by the Supreme Court and these tariffs are then refunded to American companies. I think that's a good thing because they'll have money back in their pocket and they'll probably start hiring people or investing in innovation. But that certainly is a drain on deficits and will create more debt. But on the other hand, should the son of the Secretary of Commerce be allowed to structure this product? Do they know something? Is this insider trading, or is this just foolish business? That's the question I have in my head. Is like, did they know that this was done improperly and it would be overturned so they could make 30% on the deals? Or are they anticipating a corrupt Supreme Court overturning it for some ludicrous law? I have no idea, but I think it's a great discussion to have as we progress here. But before we do all that, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. I hope that all of you have just an incredible time with your families. For those of you who are believers, get rid of the elves and the Santa Claus and really focus in on the birth of Jesus Christ. That is what we're celebrating. It's not his birthday. Everyone knows that, but this is the day that we celebrate it. So let's get into this. What are your guys' takes on this? Most people don't know that Cantor Fitzgerald is basically buying tariff refunds from mid to large size companies right now at a 20 to 30% discount. What is that, Gregory? What does that bring into your mind? What is happening with the structured product?
I don't have a really well-developed thought on that, so I'm not going to, really opine. I am sickened by the level of crony capitalism, and so up and down between, little Baron Trump with his, $60 million. So it runs up and down. But at this stage of where we're at, I sort of wouldn't expect anything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious at this juncture. Bram, what do you think about that?
He's thinking about
I,
his
I
podcast that's
was
coming
I
up.
He's like, I
was
don't care. I don't live in America. I'm good.
I was distracted with posts by the European Central Bank that said independent central banks are better at ensuring price stability. So I just wanted to give them a zinger in the reply. Um, I think it's actually sign of the times, to be honest. What you're talking about, right? Like, isn't it fascinating that Barron is dabbling around in crypto, and the son of the of Lutnick is running this and doing all these things that you just mentioned. Yeah, I just think it's a sign of the times, and it's logical, right? It's I don't know if they're actually looting the treasury, but we are in the phase of looting the treasury, right? So I don't think it's a coincidence that there's like clear nepotism, clear market manipulation. What's the Trump thing called? World Liberty Finance or whatever. It's when Trump launched that, I was basically realizing that okay, this is where we are. Like, you could just do this, and let the craziness begin. So I just think it's a sign of the times, and we're ending. I don't know at what pace, but we're ending. We're nearing the end of fiat money, of the US dollar, and I think it's going to become more and more clear what the pace actually is of where we're at, right? And I think Q1, Q2 next year are going to be interesting to see if they're really pulling out all the stops, or like Luke Roman, actually, I just saw an overview of his actual argumentation as to why he sold Bitcoin. He thinks there's not going to be like crazy printing, right? I see Eric laughing. I'm also laughing when I see Luke Roman saying like, "Oh, it trades like a tech stock." Yeah, dude, that's the fucking signal. Like, no one understands what this thing is. Anyway, he doesn't think the printing is coming. I do think the printing is coming. I know G Money thinks the printing is coming. So I think that's kind of that's probably going to be the biggest signal to see where we're at and how fast the dollar is debasing. I think it's Q1 or Q2 where like most of the US debt needs to be refinanced next year. Of all the debt that needs to be refinanced next
Q2.
year. So yeah. So I that's what I'm looking at to kind of gauge where we're at in terms of velocity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing is that I watch political polarization. Like, that's one of my most fascinating hobbies, is watching the polarization. Like, you view a president or a politician. What if the last guy did what the new guy is doing? How would you think about it? That's really the way you should look at it. And when you watch what's happening right now, people like imagine if Hunter Biden launched a bunch of altcoin tokens and stable coins and was making $48 million a transaction to buy Binance and things like that. People would be up in arms. But today it's like, it's okay. It's Trump's son. No, at least our guys are crony capital. At least our guys are. It doesn't mean anything in their pocket, but at least their guys are making the money. Now, the other thing is that Trump Media just bought 451 Bitcoin worth $40 million this morning. So you could look at, I look at corruption all the time, and it doesn't matter who's doing it. I'll call it out. That is, for those of you who are biblical, that's Ephesians 5:11. Do not partake in the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. You should be exposing these things, but at the same time, they're a good indication as to what's to come. So if we have Lutnick and his firm, or his son's firm now, buying tariff refunds at a discount, and Trump buying Bitcoin basically in the same 4-day spectrum of when the story leaked to today's purchase of Bitcoin, that's about as bullish a signal as you can have before this December 26th options clearing. But G Money, I want to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yo, Shadalay, Shadalay, good
Shadalay.
morning. On the 112th anniversary of the creation of the Federal Reserve by Woodrow Wilson, that essentially took over
Woohoo!
America. And so we should reflect on that and figure out, at least talk about why that happened in the first place. But um, yeah, I've kind of been in and out, Eric. So sorry, I'm kind of a little bit scatterbrained right now. But I did post a thing in the nest about the brilliance of tariffs and the end to taxation. And I keep hearing, the comparison you make between, well, we have to compare Trump's, sons with Hunter Biden, and I think that's fair in normal circumstances where you have politicians that have been around for 40, 50 years. But we have to understand that Trump was never a politician, right? He never entered the realm of politics for his entire life until, the age of 80 something or whatever. And here's a guy who's a billionaire who had all kinds of friends and just decided to put his family and his entire circle at risk, essentially, right? He put his family in harm's way. Now, I don't think any regular person who is a billionaire would do that on purpose, right? They would probably just live out their life and not even like enter the realm of politics to endanger their families. But that's exactly what happened. And it's not like, conspiracy. He's been shot at, right? So, I think we need to like maybe temper those terms and be a little bit more based in that Trump is something different. So, anyways, top of the morning to y'all. Let's go.
Yeah, we can look at it from that perspective. There's two ways to look at that. Either it's true and what you're saying is real, or it's a construct and it was designed to get support at a time of difficult decisions. So I don't know where that rests. I've always been on the fence on that for the last decade, but it's definitely a perspective that we will take into account. I think the thing that we watch is the actions, not the assumed intentions or what have you. And $12 billion in net worth growth in 1 year is a pretty good year for any family. I will look at it from that perspective until things change. So until then, we can kind of mimic what they're doing. So, for the last, 40 or 50 years, if you were trading with Nancy Pelosi, you would be massively wealthy. So I think today we just transfer who we are watching and what they're doing. And this morning, Donald Trump bought 451 Bitcoin, $40 million worth. I think that's a bottom signal for me. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out in the end.
Actually, he bought 3 times. He bought 150 Bitcoin, I think it was, or whatever. And so there's a Kofefi hit in there, Eric. If you've read the
I have.
if you've read my stuff, the 315s are still very, very much active, even with Trump. Funny enough. So, anyways,
The
thought that's a kind of a funny coincidence.
The 315s are hitting, dude. I definitely see it. The thing to me, though, man, is the more obvious it becomes, the more obvious it seems that the other side may be correct. That's just me, though. We will see that in the end. Time is the ultimate storyteller. Until then, it's conjecture. Terrence and Lauren, should we take this thing into a Christmas direction, or do we continue on the market watch? Because I think that's really all that we're looking at today. The three main things are Trump media purchase. The options clear out on the 26th, and I think it's fascinating that Lutnick's son is buying tariff refunds potentially months ahead of time. Where should we go with this today? I want to keep it light.
We can't hear you, Lauren.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Can you hear me now? You know why you couldn't hear me earlier was because I was not saying anything. No, Eric, you
Tricky.
are the host, so it is entirely up to you, sir.
Well, I want to get new voices. So, like, we kind of went into the deep stuff. We'll continue to do that. We'll run this thing as long as it needs to run today. I only have 2 things that I need to do, and I really want to get away from the smells in my kitchen right now because my wife and my mother-in-law make this homemade coffee bread, and it is the greatest thing in the history of the world for my tongue and the worst thing in the world for my gut. So, I'm going to have to get out of here to do that at some point. But I do want to get a feeling of what Bitcoin Christmas means to a Bitcoiner. Christmas means something different to everybody. It does. For me, I have some tragedy around Christmas. So as an adult, I didn't celebrate it till I had kids. And then seeing the joy on my kids' faces when they were little around this holiday kind of revived my spirit. If you haven't noticed in the first half an hour of this, I'm very much against the paganistic, secular Christmas of elves and making toys and Santa. It's really all about the birth of the Savior for me. We actually make a happy birthday Jesus cake in my home, which sounds weird to some people. It's a ton of fun to sing. We love the gifts and all that stuff, but I am going to be giving away every stocking of every loved one of mine has at least $100 of Bitcoin, depending on how much I like them. Minimum's $100 for the kids, for everyone, in these little gift cards from Fold that you can actually find at Kroger. Your local grocery store sells Bitcoin gift cards that you can give to people. So if you haven't done that for folks, I would highly advise doing that to get them involved. And I know, Terrence, you're all about giving away Bitcoin. Who here is giving away Bitcoin to people for Christmas? I have, to be frank, until 2022 or 2023, I had always given either a small 1 gram of gold to the kids or a couple ounces of silver to the kids. It's transitioning to Bitcoin since 2023. And now my kids know how to run a cold wallet and all that good stuff. But I'm hoping that that will be educational, not Christmas Day, but like the following week, where I can go to relatives' houses and show them how to do this. What are you all doing for Christmas, and how does Bitcoin fit into the equation?
I'll take that. I have to be the Christmas Grinch on this one. I have given out more Bitcoin at Christmas than I'd like to admit or even think about today. And after people like my father had lost 3 Bitcoin because he had lost his words and forgot his password, after things like that continued to happen, you get these wallets, you use these different options. People never sweep them, people never claim them. I I personally, and any of my clients, anyone I can advise, I don't really give people Bitcoin anymore. I offer people hardware wallets, which is really the sad thing because I remember being on stage with Lauren talking about hardware wallets for hours at a time to hundreds and hundreds of people. And I haven't had anyone ask me about a hardware wallet in 3 years. Christ, people buy Bitcoin with email now, right? They email their broker and get ETFs, and that's a whole other issue. Jesus. But no, I give people hardware wallets, that and a lesson. And if they're willing to do that, sit down for an hour and learn how those things work, and go buy their own Bitcoin initially. I find they have a much better experience. They take the ownership and the understanding. So more than just giving someone Bitcoin, I think giving someone the proper understanding in a time when it's so easy to buy Bitcoin in the wrong ways, to buy it as an
Hey,
ETF.
yeah, this is just Eric. Great topic. Good guy. Amazing. I've had the exact same experience. Like I handed it out to like cousins and stuff, and a few years later, people change phones. They don't. So, has anyone? This is awesome topic, and I'm thinking about it too. Terrence, saying you got ideas. But has anyone like this notion? I know you always hear Booth, and I haven't. I have downloaded it, but I haven't really dug into this. Fetty where you've got this notion of guardians and like has anyone had any experience with that as a way of giving?
Puncher is well versed on the Fediments. You want to cover that, Puncher?
Yeah, buddy.
There
Sorry,
he
I'm
is.
double tasking right here. What's the topic? I apologize.
No, he was
Well, yeah, we're
talking
talking
about. Go
about
ahead,
giving,
Greg.
and if you give stuff away, people just don't take it seriously. And good guy was talking about his. I had the exact same experience. It's like you just don't take it seriously. So this notion of Fediments and like the generous uncle, and it's got a kind of a more custodial, and you've got guardians, but I don't know too much about it.
Yeah. So I've used it a little bit, but I would really, well, you know what I'd love to do is so given the recent developments with Samurai, um, I don't know that anyone wants to talk about it too much. If you get my drift.
I
Um,
do.
okay, so I'm gonna respect those wishes, but what I'd like to do here, especially if you get Resolution and Keone out, I'd like to get I'd like to get some people in to maybe do a deep dive in it. I think you'll find it fascinating. But we're there. There's no that horse is out of the barn, but you don't want to seek trouble where there may not be any. I'll just leave it at that.
For sure. There's also BIP 85. If you want Uncle Jim, Terrence could probably get into that.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, I have nothing to say then. See you.
No.
There he
Gen X, why
is.
don't you
Yeah,
go?
he's
This
Gen
is
wearing a
one of
X.
shirt
Gen
with BIP
X's
85
favorite.
on it.
That's his
Yeah,
favorite
hop in
bip.
here,
Yeah.
Gen X.
And I'm going to force Gen X to promote his merch because his merch is amazing, even though he will never promote it on his own. Fantastic guy. Best dresser you'll find in all of Bitcoin. See, he doesn't even want to do it. He is one of the nicest guys in this entire space and easily the best dressed anywhere he goes. But please walk us through it, Gen X.
Yeah, Lauren, you called it, man. BIP 85. I'm curious what Good Guy thinks too. He's I've learned a lot from him as well. But yeah, you could generate seed phrases off of one master. So if somebody else loses it, their child seed phrase, if you will, you can recover it. It's deterministic entropy. BIP85, look it up. It's awesome. Definitely for the people who get comfortable with just the basics of like, hey, custody. I threw $20 in a hardware device, and then I went to recover it without the hardware device. Doing that kind of stuff over and over, you get a little bit more comfortable with it. But the crappy thing is that my kids, there is no point in packaging anything for Christmas. They know what they're getting. Yeah. What they don't know is BIP85 is behind it in case they fuck up. That's all.
What's the basics on BIP 85, Lauren? You want to walk us through that? Just the basics? Is it third grade?
No, actually, I think Gen X is probably the best because that is what he did in the fiat world and still does. So he's probably the best one to do that for us.
So it's just a way of recovering lost seed phrase, Jen?
Yeah. So think of it as if I generate a seed phrase, I could generate other seed phrases for other destinations, if you will, that have compartmentalized Bitcoin to that. So I generate, let's say, 5 other seed phrases off of my master seed phrase, and I give that out to 5 18-year-olds or teenagers, whatever. If they lose that, I could still regenerate access to theirs because it came from my master. So the slogan behind it, as far as like the apparel designs and stuff, is one seed to rule them all. So I can recover something from a child seed that was created off that master, in case somebody lost it.
I
And
think it's a really cool solution. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Terrence.
well, I was just going to say what's cool about that is that the all the child seed phrases that you generate, there's with their seed phrase, they can never go up to the parent. So they can never take the
Exactly.
parent's Bitcoin, but the parent can monitor or, sort of be a backstop for the child. As well, related to that, people don't know this, but any one master Bitcoin seed word, just 12 words, can generate all the seed words that exist. Like it's unlimited. What one seed word can
I
do.
think it's about 4.2 million addresses it
Four
gives you.
point six 4.6 billion,
Is
yeah,
it
to be
billion?
exact. Yeah, yeah, 4.6 billion.
Yeah. So super
Wild.
cool. Look, it's not for like entry level person, but just know that everybody started somewhere and everybody was new at some point. So if you're intimidated by this, you should be, but it's not as scary as you think. Another keynote, out of humility, I'm so stupid. I thought BIP85 was a protocol level BIP. It is not. It is a wallet level software BIP. So, for example, Cold Card or some other hardware cold storage device, they actually have to choose to support that BIP in their software implementation. It is built on top of what BIP32 and BIP39 did. Anyway.
It's a great solution, and I think for people who have sophistication and have the proper tools, they should always, experiment with a unique seed word, use small amounts of money in those to understand how it works. Always be careful initially. But in most situations, when I help people with this, I encourage them to generate a second copy of the words to give that loved one a hardware wallet with the Bitcoin and those words. And then at the time of maturity of their understanding or appreciation of it, after they've seen them start to put some money in there, you encourage them to get their own stick and set up their own words. So, just keeping a copy of the words you give them. There's some legal concerns and other issues. You don't want to be holding money for other people, but it's a little more practical for people who are less sophisticated for sure. It's a good solution.
This is a great topic. I mean, this is a solution to gifting Bitcoin or to, I think most Bitcoin that gets lost, we hear the horror stories of like lost 3 Bitcoin or 12 Bitcoin, or I heard of a guy who lost 300 Bitcoin. But I think that's the tragic story you hear about. I think more people lose between $100 and $10,000 in Bitcoin than any other amount because it's small to them, so they lose it. What a great solution. So how do we promote this? How do we promote BIP85 and start getting some knowledge around? That's a useful proposal that will increase network activity, ownership, access, adoption. It's fantastic. How do we promote that, Lauren?
Sorry,
He threw that at
multitasking.
you, Lauren.
Yeah. No, I think Gen X did a great job. I think it is probably not a beginner level or even basic level entry point. So I think it's something that is probably for more of an advanced type user. So I would suggest going to the regular old tutorial guys like BTC Sessions, Matt and Marty talk about it. So I would just do some research if you are at that point, because you could really go deep in the weeds and actually, a room like this, you could probably lose half the room just because they're going to nod off. But it is definitely an example of something that you can do if you are afraid of the stories that we just heard where people are losing their seeds. So I really think it's a little bit more advanced, and I think maybe we should stick to more basic stuff on spaces like this because our crowd, our listenership is kind of more entry level, and a lot of ETF folks and whatnot in here. So um, if
Yeah.
Can I give the
yeah,
what I think
go
is
ahead, Terrence.
sorry? Yeah, so I'll give you what I think is really simple, and apologies if this is a repeat for those who've seen my 12-word video. But to me, this is a fail-safe. I've been doing this for I don't know 7 or 8 Christmases in a row now, and birthdays and Secret Santas and whatnot. Just generate a 12-word wallet. Do it anywhere, whatever your favorite Bitcoin only wallet is. I use Blue Wallet. That's super easy. Mana, Bitcoin also does that. You could also use Aqua, just anywhere there. And you just say, hey, generate a new wallet. Boom, there's 12 words. So you write down those 12 words. Now go over to your Strike or, even if it's Robinhood or Coinbase, wherever it is that you have some Bitcoin, and send the amount of that gift to those new 12 words you just generated. Super easy. We all know how to do that. So you send some of your Bitcoin that you have over to this 12-word wallet. And forget about Lightning for a second, okay? So you're going to pay 90 cents. There's going to be a fee because right now, when you're teaching someone or giving someone Bitcoin for the first time, don't confuse them with Lightning. I think that's not the best way. But if you give them a Bitcoin Mana wallet or an Aqua wallet, that those already integrate Lightning as well, for later. But forget about that for now. So you've sent over, let's say, $50, $100 to those 12 words that you just generated. And again, if you haven't checked out Blue Wallet or Mana, what's great about those is you can generate as many as you want. Like if I open up my Blue Wallet app right now, I have like 70 sets of 12 words on there. And why? Because those are all past gifts. And so here's what I'm getting at. Unlike what happened to Good Guy, when I give those 12 words, usually on the back of a frame, I'll carve it in something that's wood. I'll give someone like a silly gift, and they're like, "Wow, why are you giving me this, bubble blower or whatever?" But then like hidden in it, or even the wrapping paper. I've given people gifts where when they're ripping open the wrapping paper, they're like, "Oh, wait, what's all these words on the wrapping paper?" Or you just have to tell them so they don't throw it away. And there's the 12 words, and it's like, "Oh, that's really the gift." And then they're like, well, what do I do with this? And I say, well, that's Bitcoin. That is literally Bitcoin. That's your Bitcoin secret. And they're like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm like, well, this is the first part of education. Those 12 words are a Bitcoin gift I gave to you. So you can download any Bitcoin wallet. And remember, this is just the first level. This is just education. So I don't even get into hardware wallets yet. It's just like, just open up an app on your phone and I'll direct them to either Mana Bitcoin or to Aqua or to Blue Wallet, any of them. They open it up. And rather than the first page of all of these that says, generate a new wallet, they click the second button, which they all say import wallet. It's like this is your Bitcoin wallet. So they type in those words and they see the Bitcoin right away. And it's pretty magical to look at their face and they're like, whoa, this is my Bitcoin. And so here's where the education starts. And this is what solves the problem that Good Guy was having with his dad losing 3 Bitcoin, is you just let it sit there for a second. And you can check in with them a week later, a month later, whatever, because remember, you generated these 12 words, so you still have them in your wallet. And that's why I have 70 sets of 12 words in my blue wallet. I have things where a friend took me out to, or me and a friend would go out to dinner and I would pay my half. And, let's say I owed $150, whatever. I just gave
Pick
them
the
12
wallet.
words.
Yeah.
Well, But here's what's good about it, because you can bug them even a year later, right? And maybe the price has doubled or tripled or whatever, and you're just like, remember that secret I gave you? Since I gave it to you, I have the secret too. So if I have the Bitcoin secret and you have the Bitcoin secret, we both have the Bitcoin. We both can send or spend the Bitcoin. And that really opens their eyes to thinking, oh, I need my own secret. That's right. So now you can go back into your app, generate your own 12 words, and then move it. And the people that are really, really curious and really love this, they'll do it right away on Christmas Day or when they get the gift. They'll right away get their 12 words, send it over, and boom, they have it, which is fantastic. But many people, I'm telling you, I've got I must be 20 or 30 of the wallets that I have. They haven't even moved it yet. It's just sitting there, and I know some of them never will. So, on one hand, it's never going to get lost because I'll just regift it. Like if they don't care about it, I'm just going to give it to somebody else.
That's a good
Um,
point. Terrence, can I piggyback off of what you said just to give out a few pointers on what I've done in the past? Because every situation is different as well. For my own kids, who I have obviously a more intimate relationship where I can sit down with them and explain things. I actually one year put a $100 bill and a hardware wallet. I've also given them seed plates, and I selected titanium because I've had issues with other kinds of metal that I actually dug up years later or pulled out of crawl space or had hidden away that actually did have some deterioration and some corrosion on it where I had struggles reading the words. So that was a bit of an issue. So I make sure they have great seed plates. So I've given titanium plates for Christmas presents, but I've also given $100 bill along with a hardware wallet. And then it was an opportunity to actually sit down and go through the entire process. And I know you don't have enough time to do that with everybody, so that's why things are different. And I like, what Terrence is doing with a lot of his friends and family members in that regard. But I really think it depends on who you're dealing with, because I've experienced everything across the board from what Good Guy was saying all the way through. And I think it just is who you're giving the gift to, and think it through, because we're at an age where we really need to push Bitcoin adoption. It kind of brings me to the Square thing, where we should be looking for Square terminals when we're out and about and going like, hey, you can switch this over to Bitcoin. So any opportunity to educate people, especially those close to you, those methods like Terrence and I are describing are definitely advisable. Go ahead, Gen X. Sorry.
Hey, I'm going to drop down. I don't want to take up room here, but BIP85.com it's actually CoinKite's page, which is fitting because they support it. They need to. Just again, this is something like, don't take a shitload of money and throw it in here, with that, but just play around with it. What you find is that a lot of the things about, like, what is entropy for those who don't know, or deterministic entropy in particular in this case, and these are the same fundamentals even with transaction IDs and how they get hashed up into a Merkle root. That's the same type of concept that happens here. So learning about just how this works is a beneficial thing to other aspects of Bitcoin that you'll find. And I think there's a video, let me see. There's a video from, it might be, I think it's from CoinKite, on different wallets and how to use BIP85 seeds with other types of wallets. But yeah, enjoy, have fun.
Yeah, I'm on there right now. And we'll rewind a little bit here for folks that are new, or ETF folks. Losing your keys and your Bitcoin. Bitcoin never leaves the blockchain. Your keys are the access point for the Bitcoin. So you own the car, but you need the key to operate the car. So what BIP85 sounds like is you now have 3 or 4 backup keys in case you lose the starter key for the vehicle itself. And I think that's one of the more useful BIPs that have been out in a very long time. Everyone, when you buy a car, you get 2 sets of keys, which you get in multi-sig. I will also advise this heavily for those who are thinking, and I think we'd have this big educational push coming up very soon. People who've just been buying ETFs, I believe, eventually will get curious about holding their own Bitcoin. And if you're nervous about self-custody, BIP85 would make self-custody extremely useful, and very safe-failed. But in the interim, there is multi-sig, where there are 2 keys required. So if you lose a key, you can put it in your safe with words written down on an envelope right next to it, and someone can steal that singular key with your code on it, with your phrases on it, and you're going to be totally fine. So look into multi-sig if you're trying to transition from like custodied ETF, treasury company Bitcoin into self-custody, and you're nervous about that. Multi-sig is right in the middle. It allows for, like places like Unchained have 3 keys. You have 2 on your own, and they're the third. So you have the backup keys. BIP would basically make everyone almost not truly a multi-sig, but multi-sig-ish, because you would have those backup keys to get into the car so you could drive it again. Very useful BIP. I'm on the website right now, so thank you for sharing that, Gen X. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
as
awesome
Terrence
site.
mentioned, this is a one way, so you cannot a child cannot override a parent master. This is a one directional downstream. But I got to say, like this, when I learned about BIP 85, it really helped me have further confidence. And sorry, I don't want to nerd out, but like, what the fuck does the Merkle tree do? How does it work? And you see that this same concept used for this BIP, and this plays into the other BIPs too that are underneath it, but Bitcoin doesn't know the words. And you find that when you look into BIP 39, BIP 32, it's just the transcriber, if you will, from human readable words to what gets processed to unlock a wallet. And it's that kind of tech. And without these things, without there being a hash that gets stuck on a block and added to the chain, that same concept is what allows Bitcoin to work the way that it does. And that same concept is used here. So yeah, have fun.
Yeah, to that Gen X, the BIP 39 is the list that came out in I forget, it was 2013 or 2014, where there's 2,048 words to represent all of the keys that there are or ever will be, and it's pretty ingenious that they were able to figure that out with just 2,048 words. And it's not really the word; the words are just great for us because they're easier to remember or write down or retrieve. But it's really the first 4 letters of every word, and so similar to like the military alphabet, which someone like Puncher knows, they were the words were selected in a way that you can't confuse one for another. And what the first 4 letters of every word, this will be a little nerdy, but if you're curious, what the first 4 letters of every word represent are a string of 11 ones and zeros. So it could be 111110001 whatever. Because before BIP 39, that would be your key. You would have to save those 12 sets of 11 ones and zeros. Now, the checksum isn't actually 11 ones and zeros. It's like 8 of them, but that's just getting a little nerdy. Because, the last word of the 12 words it just sort of is a summary check of the prior words to know that you have all the correct words.
After hearing you go through that, Terrence, I think that you have a future retirement career as an auctioneer. You went through the 111000 about as fast as any human being can do. So we are all advocating for your post-retirement auctioneer, where you'll be auctioning off all kinds of Bitcoin things in the future with rapid speed. You talk fast when you want to. You're kind of like Matt when you want to be. I love that. I love that. Let's say hi to Puncher. We got Puncher, we got AC, we got BitBlanca, Tahoe, a bunch of new folks up here. What's going on, Punch?
Hey guys, just running around trying to get. Unlike you, Eric, I have done zero shopping except for my kids. So,
Not like me anymore. I am now completely done after yesterday.
oh, good for you, buddy. Well, I'm getting all these big, deep discount sales, I guess. But anyway, it's hard to buy for people. But no,
Get them a
man,
Home
just
Depot card, Puncher. People love Home Depot cards.
And then tell them to fix your back porch. You're like, listen, I paid for it. You can do the work. It's a perfect
how
mix.
about how about cash? Is cash inappropriate?
I used to give
I would
cash
be
all the
thrilled
time.
with cash.
Now it's Bitcoin. I probably will for the little kids. I'll probably put like a silver eagle in their stocking. Not my kids that are grown now and they have their own little safe, but I'll probably put a silver eagle, a gram of gold, and $50 in Bitcoin in like my niece and nephew stocking on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Truth be told, you don't get the same reaction as cash. Maybe it's me. I did a bad job educating my kids, but I'm like,
Hey,
hey,
Puncher, don't you have a Top Golf out there by you? Because you're in golf land.
yeah, this is a good one.
That's a good.
Very.
So that's a good gift. You can just do a Top Golf gift card, right? Because that's a good experience for everybody.
Oh my gosh, Top Golf is it's fun, but man, oh man, I feel like you put a gun in my head. The prices they charge, but
You know what a good thing
it's
to
fun.
do for gift giving is if you like for relatives that I don't talk to that often, we have to buy gifts if they're coming to Texas or whatever. If they're coming here, I'll go on their social media and go back like 4 or 5 months, and I'll see what makes them angry and what makes them happy, and I try to buy like a funny joke gift of the things that they hate. Like if they're If they hate politics, I'll buy them like a I voted sticker and put it in there to make them laugh. Or if they're all into like, the Bears are having a great year, then I'll buy them something from the Bears. It like makes it simple. Like social media is a pretty good way to read them.
Well, for one side of my family, anything with Donald Trump's picture on it would set them set them off. So maybe that's a good gag gift.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark. Like it starts great conversations at Christmas time. I
Yeah,
would
that's
highly
exactly
advise against that.
what you want.
Yeah. Jelly of the Month
I don't
Club.
like receiving gifts. I don't know about you guys,
I
but I
hate
don't
it.
mind giving. Yeah, I mean, I feel like half of the time someone's giving me an obligation. Like, okay, great. Now I have to return this sweater. Or get a refund on this thing that I'm never going to use. And I also just don't want to have junk or clutter or stuff. And, do I need to feign, happiness that, oh, thank you. And the notion is always, I appreciate, but I'm one of those people that I buy what I want. So I'm just not good
Yeah.
at receiving. I wish I was. I'm just not.
Here's the classic married guy predicament. My wife comes to me. I don't think we should exchange anymore. I can get what I want, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great. So you're 100% not buying me anything for Christmas. I just want to be clear. No, I don't think we should. Sure enough, last Christmas, what do I get? Couple presents. But she spent a couple $100 and I'm like, and I have nothing. And I'm like, I thought we weren't exchanging. Well, I saw something that I thought you might like.
You fell
So
for that, Puncher? You
I
seriously fell
Yeah,
for
that's
that?
a trap.
I totally did. And so I'm not falling for it again this year. So there you
Do
go.
I look fat in this dress? Yeah, you know better, Puncher.
No,
Presents
it's
are the worst. They never get you the really nice version of the thing you want. They always get you, and it's just like, fuck, I'll just. Yeah, so I'm Santa Claus now. So every year I just buy all the things I want and I make my wife wrap them for posterity. And this year I'm getting all sorts of off-wheel recovery stuff and getting back into the magic cards, all sorts of silly shit. It's great. It's great. Had to
The
buy a
worst
lot
is
more for her though.
Valentine. Valentine's is the worst because she's like, I just want a card where you can write out and express your feelings. I'm like, oh my gosh.
you guys need to get your
I'd rather give you $1,000.
you guys need to get
Yeah. How,
Puncher, you got to get
how
your wife
much?
deep in the weeds, dude. On Valentine's Day, my wife looks at me and she goes, "This is nothing more than a ploy for Hallmark to make money and for consumers to spend. We're not doing. We'll go to dinner."
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
She's
an effective
based.
ploy. It's an effective ploy, my man.
very effective. Yeah, hate getting gifts, love giving gifts. I love surprising people, and for the last probably 4 years, I've really focused on gifts that will matter in the future. So my wife will buy like, oh, it's a great, jacket for them. And then I'll put together something like Bitcoin or gold or silver. And you get to tell a story with it. I had bought like 48 silver drachmas, which are the mint of the coinage that was minted for the Magi for their journey to see the Christ when he was born. These like collector items are not very expensive, like a couple $100, but they're verified. And I used to give those away at Christmas, and I would get to tell the story of like, hey, this is just a coin to some people, but this is history, and you can hold it. And now there's a bunch of people who have it in their wallet, and they walk around with it and tell people that story all the time, which is pretty cool. I like gifts like that, giving gifts like that. But I think that most people on this chat today are probably horrible gift receivers and like giving gifts. I'm definitely one of them. Eddie, I see your hand there, buddy, but go ahead and
Yeah, Eric, if you're giving away silver, gold, and Bitcoin at your Christmas, I would definitely like to come over for that. That sounds like a good time. But
check your DNA, man. If your DNA matches, you're in.
it's got to be, man. I'm pretty sure it was. My name's Eddie Rice. Um, no, but in
Bring
real
your
talk though,
23
I
and me
do.
score.
I like the BIP 85 conversation, but it does obviously take away from like the beginner Bitcoiner. So like going back to the like what's the Bitcoiner gifting for Christmas? Yeah, the silver and gold is obviously a great move. I've done some gold backs, which kind of looks like cash to people in there, but it has a little bit of gold contents in there. But even to double tap back on what you said on these fold gift cards, and I think it's the perfect way to gift it right now, just because there's no technical knowledge needed. You don't need to tell anybody about a wallet. Consumers know how to spend a credit card, how to get a gift card. That's American culture, right? So you hand them a Bitcoin gift card, they actually know what to do with it. You don't need to tell them anything. But yeah, that's kind of my main. That's going to be my main Bitcoin gifting mechanism this year, is just getting into these Bitcoin gift cards from Kroger or Ralph's or whatever grocery stores near you. They barely came out in September, so I think a lot of people are not aware of this, including Bitcoiners.
on how easy it is to like buy a gift card from the store, you gift it to someone, and you don't have to say anything, and that's really important for me personally, because we've all been through that nightmare of gifting some Bitcoin and not only just hoping they don't lose it, but actually as time goes by, like you're hoping someone who has skin in the game, they're going to educate themselves a little bit more on the Bitcoin. So I do see it as a great gateway for new Bitcoiners. And at this time, it's like it's you can spin up wallets, you can do 12-word, 24-word, multi-sigs. There's a lot of stuff, but a lot of that jargon confuses beginner Bitcoiners, right? It like scares them off. It makes them think you're a nerd too, on top of all that. But yeah, that I just wanted to circle back on
Actually,
that too.
Eddie, it doesn't make them think you're a nerd. It lets them know you are a nerd. And that's a cool thing. Like, nerds are the new cool. So we're all good with the nerd.
Hey guys,
Based.
I gotta bounce, but I just wanted to say this conversation. We never know which way the ball's going to bounce, but it's been really helpful for me today, and I appreciate all you guys. But
Are you
thanks.
running to Kroger right now to buy gift cards?
Yeah, I honestly, like, yes. I mean, basically, I've got my like ideas. Like Puncher, like you and I must be gentlemen of about the same age and have kind of the same issues. It's anyway. I just appreciate you all, and we'll catch you in probably tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks, Gregory. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, no, the whole Fold gift card started because we went to Kroger to buy gift cards for our kids' teachers, like Starbucks and all that stuff. And my wife looked over with this weird look, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, they have Bitcoin gift cards here." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I picked it up and I read it. And then my wife went into another aisle, and my daughter, who's 12, looked at me and she goes, "Don't worry, Dad. Mom already bought you one for Christmas." So I was like, "Oh, if it's that easy that she's doing it, then I should do it for people too." So I looked it up online that night, and I was like, "It is very, very simple, very like fiat way to do it. Not low technical expertise, but I think it opens up the conversation later to be able to talk to folks and say like, well, here's what you do with it now." Another suggestion I will make is Terrence's suggestion is honestly the best. It does require a little bit of work, but it is the best because it's already custody. Like a lot of that stuff is already done for them. But another good way to do it, the way that I did it the past 2 years, was on River. So River, you can actually gift people Bitcoin with an email, and then they will it'll help them open up a River account, and the Bitcoin goes in there. And then generally what I do is the same people who come here for Christmas come for New Year's. And what I did last year was I gave it to 4 people at my house. I gave it to everybody who worked for me the year before. And by the way, 90% of them still have the Bitcoin. So only 10% of them sold their Bitcoin. I gave everybody $200 at work in Bitcoin, which is now $600 from like 2023, early 23. And they all still own it. And when they come back over for our New Year's Eve party, I generally have an old hardware or old cold wallet that I've like cleared out for my new one, and I just hand it to them, and I'm like, "Hey, let's get together next week, and I'll show you how to do this." So, River, Blue Wallet, all these things are fantastic ideas, and I think Bitcoiners should be doing that. The way I look at it from this perspective, because you also have people who are on this chat right now, I don't check the comments while we're talking. I try to focus on the conversation as much as I can. But you will also have people on here like, why would you give away Bitcoin to someone who doesn't want it? Well, here's my reasoning this year. I don't do the shopping. My wife does the shopping. I don't even know what we're giving people. People open up a gift, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Like as much a surprise for them as it is for me. And like, oh, I hope you really like that. I buy the thoughtful gift for family. And this year I decided, you know what? I'm going to go out to the malls and stores, and I'm going to go shopping like I used to do. And I went to a place called Scheels, which is like, if you live in the South, it's this massive sporting goods store with like a Ferris wheel in the middle of it's just huge. Great places. And I was like, I walked in. My dad and I are lifetime Bears fans. We're having a great year. I'm like, I'm going to buy my dad this Bears hoodie. It's the coolest Bears hoodie I've ever seen. It was $135. Like, when did a hoodie become $135 freaking dollars? So the way I look at it is like, I could buy people a hoodie that they're either going to return because they don't like it, wear 4 times a year. Because I live in Texas, so you only need a hoodie indoors most of the year. And I could buy them that for 135, or I could buy them $50 in Bitcoin, save $85 on the gift, and then eventually my $50 will be worth more than the hoodie. So we're competing with hoodies at Christmas. I'm just letting you know that this is a bottom signal for the market when we're competing with the price. If hoodies cost $135 at a sporting goods store, I think the price of Bitcoin is probably going to go up over time. Just that's my technical analysis with squiggly charts and astrology and all of infra's macroeconomics injected into my brain. So let's keep it moving. So Puncher, great story. I think most of the men on this panel right now share the same predicament. I had the conversation 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm
Don't buy me
thinking high
anything.
end. I'm thinking high end vacuum cleaner. What do you think, ladies?
Or a new dish rag. They'll love that. That
Yeah.
won't be offensive at all.
They do love that Dyson puncher, and if she doesn't have it, they love the Dyson hair dryer.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I just bought that for my wife. It's the best thing you could get.
I bought that for my
Yeah,
daughter.
they love that.
Hey, don't sleep on that Revlon, man. My wife raves about that from Costco.
I have no idea what you're talking about. All I know is my wife said we bought our daughter
He's
a
talking
Dyson.
about the $15 hair dryer that you buy at CVS.
I
They
can't
all
get
do
out
the
of
same job,
Costco for
no?
under $500 ever. Just like, oh, you're just walking down there like, wow, look at that package, the thing that stores food and it wraps it and it seals it. I need that. And you grab it. It's just crazy.
Did you buy any gold for a $300 premium to spot price?
No.
It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Everything there is cheap except the gold. It's $300 premium. It's just amazingly expensive. And don't buy your gold at Costco, by the way, guys. Go buy it somewhere where they can test it in front of you if you're buying gold.
I think Wrench had his hand up.
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
yeah. Hey, guys, I just love talking about Bitcoin. Oh, Wrench, you
Bitcoin's
can
my
Was
continue.
favorite.
that your New York accent,
That was
Terrence?
That
terrible.
was terrible. I know.
That
Sorry.
was horrible. That was horrible.
Wow. We'll get you in the loop, Terrence. Believe it or not, the first time I bought gold, I bought it, maybe 3-4 years ago. I bought it. I was looking to buy gold, and I was buying jewelry at first. And then I was talking, because I didn't know nothing about it. And I was talking to the jeweler, and he was explaining to me. He's like, no, he's like, this is 40% gold. It's 60% other metals. You need to buy real gold. So I went to Costco, and I bought it at like 2,200 each for a bar. Was it 0.99 grams? And it almost doubled since I bought it. But yeah, where would you buy gold then? What's the best way to buy gold?
Well,
Licensed and bonded gold and silver brokers who have an assay kit in front of them. It takes literally 30 seconds to test it and show you the results.
yeah, they got a machine. They got a little gun. They just fire on it, and it could silver, gold, tells you the purity. But I would just say, if you real quick, 101 on jewelry, just a suggestion. Find a guy in your town that's like a gold and silver guy, because a lot, especially now with silver and gold, people. Well, in Scottsdale, there's a place called Valley Coin that I'm very good friends with the owner. Been going to him for years now. When something comes in, they melt it. So they're really paying a deep discount, particularly like if some wealthy Scottsdale elderly couple passes and they have 8 kids, they just divvy the stuff up, right? And then they go to a guy like Valley Coin and they say, what can I get for this? Because selling jewelry retail, there's a concept called triple key. Like whatever they pay for it, they charge you 3x, right? What they made. So forget about the gold and silver content and the workmanship. Triple key is what you buy retail. So here, people are turning in like really, really nice, well-made quality stuff that might be 40, 50, 60, 100 years old. So it's bespoke jewelry. And I mean, fascinating. They'll rip the stones out of that and sell it at a deep discount, and then they'll just send it to the smelter. If you can go in and establish a relationship and say, look, I want to get, I'm interested in any jewelry you get. I've bought some of the most amazing jewelry with opals and diamonds and rubies and sapphires that are just amazing for just above melt. So think about that. Now, you can't pick and choose really. I mean, what comes in comes in. But over the years, I just bought a Rolex for like $5,000 that was orange. It was like a Bitcoin looking Rolex. It's the only reason I bought it. I don't want a Rolex, but I figured, it'd be a shame to melt this Rolex down. And it was probably a early 2000 version Rolex that, you could probably sell if you waited around for 3x that what you paid for it. So establish that relationship, let them know what you want. And over time it will come in the door and you can pick and choose what you want, but it's way better than going to, those the diamond dealers or whatever, where they're waving it, that commercial that's in every town where they're waving at you at the end of the commercial. That's like waving goodbye to all your money. That's what they're doing right there. So
I got one better for you, Puncher. Yeah, if you can find an amazing jeweler and access to a smelter and all that stuff, that's really great. Most people are not going to have that access. I discovered a website actually was probably right around the same time that I first got into Bitcoin, and I purchased from them several times. They're actually pretty amazing. It's called Mene MENE.com. And they do nothing but 24 karat gold jewelry. It's literally called investment jewelry. Uh, the 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 jewelry is like pure gold. There's no alloying. There's no, oh, is it 22 karat or 18 karat or 14 karat? And if you want to get a gift for your sweetheart, your loved one, whatever, and it's something that will actually be very easy to sell at some point in the future or serve as a store of value kind of thing. That's the only thing I've ever found that was actually, checking all those boxes. And you can get like chains and earrings and rings, and I've purchased from them several times. Really beautiful stuff, and actually serves the function of preserving some value, and also, really elegant, nice jewelry for the person that you're trying to give a wonderful gift to. So worth checking out, MENE.com.
You
yeah,
can do one
that's a
better
great
than that,
idea.
though. The junk guys, they clear out the storage units, and they just deal with way too much stuff. And so I've hooked up with a couple of those guys, and I get bags of jewelry, coins. I open safes for them, and that's been a really gainful relationship. Old vintage, solid gold jewelry, old weapons, all sorts of really clever stuff. And they're just the guys you see driving around the drunk trucks. If they're working for any of the storage units, he just gets paid $69 to empty the unit. The company doesn't care what's inside of it, right?
It's
You just
amazing.
want them to take the shit.
I watched
Well, they got to
Storage
take
Wars
all.
for
They got
like
to
three
take the
years.
junk too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I bought one of those for $175 one time, and I think all I got was like a mild version of diphtheria or something. There was absolutely nothing
And a
in that
bunch of
storage.
CDs.
Look,
It
it's a
was
it's a it's
horrible.
a very it's a very romantic notion of like treasure hunting and finding some like absolute score, even like, connecting with a jeweler who has access to, people's like estate sale findings and things like that. Like yeah, you can every once in a while find a real treasure, but so much jewelry is done with, alloyed metals where the actual valuable metal is so diluted. And then, we've all read about, just how so many precious stones aren't really scarce or precious at all. And so a lot of that jewelry, from the point of view of you're thinking about hard money, you're thinking about valuables, you're thinking about store of your wealth into the future, you're thinking about heirlooms that maybe, your grandkids or great grandkids are going to appreciate. I think it kind of requires a slightly different point of view. I think Bitcoin is the ultimate, but we all know how tricky it is to hand that off to people as a gift. But that's where, I kind of really liked the pure gold, the 24 karat gold thing. At least it kind of satisfied that one aspect of, it's real, it's actually pure, and it actually will, have some kind of value in the future.
Yeah, TC.
Gold
I've been
guys are
buying
listening,
Thai,
going, "You
Thai,
can't, you
Thai
can't make a
bot.
necklace out of Bitcoin." You
No,
got,
I know, I
they're
know.
all listening to that
Bitcoin's
right
the
now.
best. The caveat is, Bitcoin's the best we got. But I will tell you,
Dude, in
Well,
other
here's my
cultures,
question on Bitcoin.
they collect gold for that reason. You
of
can
course.
put on a lot of chains and get on an airplane and like oh, that's just mom's jewelry, and you travel across a border, and before Bitcoin, that's like about as good as you could do, right?
That's
Is that
right.
what they're
Load it
doing
up.
in professional sports now, where there's like, oh, we're not getting charged into that's
Dude, Mr. T was onto something. He knew what was up.
you
Hey
can't
guys,
make a necklace out of Bitcoin, guys.
I got to jump real quick. But one of the things that I think is a really great opportunity. So with the price of silver being where it is, people are bringing in sterling heirlooms, and I mean it's going to the smelter, and some of this stuff is amazing. People spent thousands of hours crafting a piece of art, or some of these tea sets and candelabras and things like that. I mean, it's almost a crime. And the more people are coming in with this now, the less and less of that stuff is around, because everybody's sending it to the smelter. So I think a good opportunity, outside of Bitcoin, of course, is to grab some of these really truly unique pieces that are coming from Europe and everywhere else, and they're just melting it for for the 92% or whatever it is. And it's tragic. So if you can find a guy who's got that stuff and you can put it away for a while, I think you do okay just for the artistic value of all this stuff. That's all.
Terrence, I think we should have done this space in November because tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and we're giving great ideas right now. I think we should have done this in.
There's just no time.
Yeah, there's none. Like I literally just gave my son and my wife are going to they're going to the mall, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I pulled them aside while you guys were talking, and I gave them some money. I'm like, I need two more gift cards, one for your mom, one for your sister. Here's the cash. Go do it. But yeah, we probably are doing this too. Like great ideas though. I've been buying when I started managing money in Chicago, about 80% of my clients were in the jewelers district in Chicago. So I got to learn all this stuff early. I bought my wife her wedding ring and engagement ring, which was platinum and had a lot of diamonds, for about $6,500, and it was insured for $64,000 the very next day. So like there is a huge markup on this stuff. But Ghost of John has had his hand up since the Vietnam War right now, and I feel really bad. Go ahead, Ghost.
Good afternoon, all. Shade Alay and Merry Christmas. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
All right, great. Before I give you my idea, I just wanted to give a shout out to Wrench because I grew up in New York and specifically in Staten Island, New York, and every time I hear his accent, just warms my heart just a little bit.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Hey, I'll meet you for a
Thank
sandwich
you,
at
brother.
Tommy
Appreciate
Capitola's.
that. Yeah, he's not there anymore.
Darn. Yeah, so I was thinking of a way that a great gift for someone who's either interested in money or who is a gold bug or a silver bug, and you're trying to orange pill them is you can get these blanks. They're like blank silver rounds, either 1 ounce or half ounce or a little bar, and you engrave or you hammer out a 12-word seed phrase onto that blank, and you put the same value of the coin in Bitcoin onto that wallet, and they can track the value of the coin and their Bitcoin, as they go along. What do you think of that?
I think that's a good idea. That's very cool. I didn't even think about
Basically bringing Cassius coins back, right? Something like that. That'd be
that.
tight.
Cassius coins were awesome. I don't know why they stopped making those. That's a super cool idea.
Well, let me
Yeah, well, like you
quick
said, it's a little bit too late to do all that, but too close to Christmas.
I forgot somebody was talking right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I just ask you a real quick question before I go? I'm sorry to interrupt, John. I really am. I got to go. Believe it or not, as far as the blue wallet goes, right? Because I've been trying to get my cousin to buy Bitcoin for years. I'm telling him, just put 5-10 grand in the account for your son. You don't touch it for 20 years. So I'm gonna get it for him. But are these software wallets safe? Because I know when they say, make sure you don't take a screenshot of your seed words, keep it safe. Now, if I buy it through these software wallets, is it safe? Can anybody get access to it?
Well, you can't buy Bitcoin on Blue Wallet. That's just a great wallet for learning. And, for small amounts of money, it's a great way you can spin up words real fast. But once he starts acquiring enough on his Bitcoin, on his Blue Wallet, you're going to want to teach him about a cold storage because it is hot in that it is on your phone. But it is an open source. It is one of the best. Blue Wallet has never had an issue. But, you just always want to be careful if your secret is sitting there on your phone.
The word hot is important there. And the difference between hot and cold is what is the situation in which you're creating that wallet. And because on Blue Wallet, that's an internet connected thing, it's an app on your phone. After all, it's giving you the 12 words. So that's hot because those 12 words could be, in theory, intercepted by someone. It could be stored on a server somewhere. It's fine
Persistently
for
connected device, right?
it's fine for someone's first touch on Bitcoin. Maybe $50 or $100 worth of Bitcoin, but certainly if you're talking about $1,000 or more with Bitcoin, at some point you need to start really looking at the true security paradigm, and the whole reason people focus so much on cold storage and cold wallets is that those devices allow you to create a wallet. You get your words offline so that those words are guaranteed to have never been in anyone else's possession. And that's the fundamental, like, linchpin, so to speak, of the security model, is that you are the only human on earth that has those words, and that's what means you're the only human on earth that can move that Bitcoin. And that's the fundamental ownership principle of Bitcoin. So when you get serious about it, you got to go with the cold storage and these offline approaches. That air gap, that's another word that comes up, and that literally means like this thing never touches the internet. There's a gap between the words and the hardware and the wild west of the internet. You know, you keep those things separate. So
It's so
that's kind of like it's the next level. You graduate to that, you get there as you learn more. But getting someone started with a hot wallet, that's fine for sort of a trivial amount and for their first experience with touching some seed words. It's just, again, like if you're helping someone along and you're orange pilling them, you know, you probably have to follow up with them at some point, because a lot of people are going to basically forget about it. Other people will say, oh, well, what other coins can I get? And people will find themselves on bad apps and bad tools. So you kind of gotta help them, you know, find the right path. I think a blue wallet approach is totally cool for people getting their first taste of it. You just do have to follow up.
it's it's bigger than just that though now, TC. The hot cold wallet. The ushering in of adoption of Bitcoin has really suckered a lot of North Americans into never again using those private keys, that cold storage. So much of people investing in Bitcoin now is the ETFs, the mining stonks, right? They're buying MicroStrategy, they're buying these different IOUs that are in other people's possessions. So just like the soft wallets, the hot wallets, sorry, they're dangerous. Having Bitcoin or Bitcoin investment inside of government regulated structures where they can be frozen or taken from you, are sued by an ex-wife, or one of an indefinite amount of things. It is very different. All of those are also hot wallets. Your ETF is a hot wallet, right? It's not real Bitcoin. And I think we need to start considering them that way as well.
Thank you guys. Merry Christmas to all. I got to run. I hope everybody has a great holiday. Enjoy your families. You know, really be grateful that you're there with them. Because I mean, as some of you know, I lost my father, and you know, it's losing family members is not easy. So really enjoy the family you have with you now. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Merry Christmas, Wrench. God bless you and your family, man. Hope you enjoy.
Thanks, Wrench. Hey, E, I have to jump soon. I think Puncher does too, or he may have already. I was just going to ask you real quick because you were mentioning storage wars. So, if you were watching that show, did you watch Auction Hunters too? I just threw it up in the nest, the poster to remind you.
I did, and I love American Pickers. Like that.
Okay,
All those
funny.
shows are great to me.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, Auction Hunters was my show. That's why I didn't know if you. That's the only reason why I knew about and why I have that silver bar and the melting of the silver. We needed like a quick little C story button after the credits, and we ran out of of ideas, and so I was like, oh, let me run home and grab my silver. But
Yeah, and all those shows fascinate me. My grandfather owned a junkyard, so after school I'd go to a junkyard and I'd dig through cars and find change in the seats and all that kind of stuff, and watch the cars get crushed and all that. So like all those shows are pretty fascinating to me. But the one time I stuck my neck out, $175 for a storage locker, it was like cleaning out Grandma Dorothy's old slippers. I mean, it was nothing in there. It was I think it probably got about $12 of stuff that I just threw in the garbage. It
yeah,
was a
there's
huge
mostly
waste.
nothing in there. I mean, it's no secret, but we seed those lockers for television.
Oh, I'm certain of that. Although I do know one guy who found in San Diego, he bought a storage locker and he found a bunch of, like, when I was a kid, I loved the '86 Mets. That was like my favorite baseball team still to this date ever. And he found a bunch of autographed stuff of like jerseys and all that stuff in San Diego. It was a total of like 130,000 in memorabilia that he sold on eBay, and he bought it for like $65. So you do hear those stories every now and then, and that wasn't seeded, that wasn't for television. But yeah, it's a huge waste of time. It is fun though. I mean, $175 isn't going to kill anybody until you open the locker and you realize it's just filled with dust and mites and horrible things. But we'll move on to other topics here. TC, good to hear you in here today, man. Some cheeriness and talking about your love for gold, how much you love gold. You're a huge metals guy. I totally love that.
I'm surprised his name is Treasury Company, but he loves self-custody.
I
It's
know.
Hey
interesting.
man,
He's all
the
about
one
third
thing that
party.
gold has is its ability to be malleable into beautiful things for beautiful women to wear. So, I'm gonna, leave that one right there.
Oop, you dropped off on us there,
And
TC.
oh, can you hear me?
It will also.
I heard you the whole time, TC. I don't know what happened there. All right. Well, I have to jump, Eric. I don't want to buzz kill the room. You continue on. Amazing
God
job as
damn it.
always.
Can you hear me now?
I'll
I hear
buzzkill
you,
all by
TC.
myself, Terrence.
Do you
No,
not hear me, Eric?
I was just saying, the one thing gold can do is be malleable and be made into beautiful jewelry to place on beautiful women, and I think that's a good thing, and we can let gold have that win. That's all right.
Totally agree. Back to Bitcoin, December 26th. We hear the hype all the time. Been hearing hype for 10 years of dates and times. And December 26th, 53 billion in options will expire. Bitcoin will rip into the power law of $118. And none of that actually matters to me because I'm not selling it anyway. But will the hype actually will the rubber meet the road? That's the true question of the day. And conjecture is all that it will be between now and December 27th. And I kind of want to end that conversation, but I do like getting into personal stuff here. And the day before Christmas Eve, where we meet with our families, I'd love to hear any stories of people out there who have like cool things you're doing. We do the same thing every year. Tomorrow night we go for a steak dinner with the family. Christmas Day we open up presents on our own, and then nieces, nephews, grandma, grandpa, they come over. We do the same at the house. Really nothing interesting, but every now and then you do hear about people doing cool things on Christmas, and I love hearing those. But we don't have any, so you guys are very
Did
quiet.
you guys mention that it's the anniversary of the Federal Reserve Act?
G Money mentioned that right away. 112 years of complete tyranny, chaos, and thievery, which is persisting to this very moment today.
Did you mention December 23rd, the prophecy from a couple years ago, thanks to Yellow?
No, please mention it.
Yeah, I mean, he called it. He nailed the bottom. December 23rd prophecy. Don't forget. Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing. That is actually like a very pertinent statement for right now, because I think that's where we are. I love the sentiment. I love when people, there's two types of people. I like to watch things happen, listen to all the projections people have, let the date pass, and then have a conversation about it. That's not the way of the world. The world loves to anticipate and call things, and everyone wants to be known as the greatest predictor in the world. And in that type of environment, if things go sideways for like 6 hours, everyone loses faith. And you're starting to see that happen right now. You saw it happen, like silver people were in the same predicament like 10 years ago, 2 years ago. And Bitcoin now finds itself in that same sentiment bottom. And, there's going to be liquidity issues coming up and stuff like that. I saw Uncle was posting about that. And I'd love for him to come up and talk about that, because I'm very open to that conversation and figuring out action items. I don't even know what those would necessarily be from our individual perspective, but tons of stuff happening out there in the market. And I think that if we all just remain patient and focus in on the things that are important to us in our lives and keep stacking at whatever you're stacking, stack it. And if you're convicted on it, you're going to be fine. And I think these things are overwhelmingly obvious in times like this, because I actually love Twitter when it's negative about Bitcoin or negative about anything, because 1 out of 10 posts have an absolute gem in them. And about 1 out of 50 spaces will have a gem in them as well, because most spaces are like today. Like, I don't really want today to be super market heavy. The markets will be closing fairly soon. I don't really think right now overburdening yourself with stress, fear, excitement, or jubilee before Christmas is the right way to go. So I just want to keep this very relaxed. We'll probably keep it open for another 45 minutes or so and get back to our daily lives, because I'm sure there's shopping that needs to be done from all the men here, and there's wrapping that needs to be done from all the women who bought their Christmas presents in like September, because that's the way we both work. It's just genetically encoded. And just want to hang out here a little bit today. So we have Optima Capital up here. He's new. What's going on? Bit Blanca, we haven't heard from you either.
Hey guys, appreciate it. You're right. I'm new. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but cool
We can
things
hear
for
you.
Christmas. Cool things for Christmas. Up here in Montana, we'll be sledding and cross country skiing up in the Beartooths. So with most of our family, about 17 folks. Coincidentally, I was just about to walk into Shields to do some Christmas shopping. So somebody mentioned Shields earlier.
I did. Most expensive place you'll go for sure.
Yeah. Well, I happen to have met the Shields family, and 65% of their customers are women. So they really focus on women and family, and they're good people. So anyway, the thing I wanted to mention was on Bitcoin. Essentially, what I've decided to do, my wife and I, for our grandkids, is to load them up on their phones wallets of satoshis and send them little Bitcoin, and then fan them out. Our grandkids are teens and preteens, and let them go out into the world and find out where you can spend it here in Montana, and then encourage them that way to take an interest and have something fun to talk to their friends about, and hopefully, plant the seed in these younger kids, and get them interested, and then, as they're more interested, talk to them about the real dynamics of it. So anyway, that's all I had. God bless everybody, and Merry Christmas.
That's actually a very interesting thing to do, because both of my kids have a Bitcoin, but they're time locked until they're 25. So I've already time locked the Bitcoin for savings for them, to hopefully set them up for a long time in their life and get their feet on the ground. I don't want them to grow up like I did, where I had to scrape and claw for everything and build everything from scratch. But I think it's probably useful to do that, because my son and his friends, when they go to the mall, there's a Steak and Shake right there. It's actually the number one Bitcoin Steak and Shake in the country, is in Frisco, Texas. And they every now and then stop in there to get Steak and Shake, and I of course scream at him. I'm like, why don't you use your Strike app and pay for it? And he never thinks about it when they're checking out. So that's actually a really good idea to kind of activate them and get them out there looking for who's accepting Bitcoin. I think it's a great idea.
With the younger kids, I like using the watch only wallets, so that you give them a watch only address. You designate that to them, and then they can add Bitcoin to it. They can see its value change over time. Gives them a good understanding, but they won't end up getting their phone hacked. Roblox won't steal it, and they won't give it to some kid for a fake Pokemon card, which is important. You gotta let their digital swords get stolen before you let their Bitcoin get stolen. These are the lessons we all learned, right? And we gotta make sure they do too. Display only address.
That's a great idea. Also, these are great ideas. I wish I'd have done this last week and not this week, so people had time to do it. But man, these are really good ideas. It will come in handy on Valentine's Day and birthdays, and it's not just Christmas. People have birthdays, and I think, I stopped. My wife buys all the gift stuff. As I mentioned many times, I try to give the longer term stuff, and for my kids, it's always something like that. It's always like a book from the 1800s. I know they won't read until they're 21, but that book is worth decent money. I'm done reading it, and that teaches them to take care of something over time and participate in it. And I think Bitcoin's the same thing, where you can watch it, you can spend it, you can learn about leverage if it's enough, all these other things. But that was one of the fascinating things with my kid with the Strike app is, he said, I was looking at Strike, Dad, and it looks like you can take loans, and he has $200 in the Strike app. And he's like, but I can't get a loan because I don't have enough. And I'm like, well, that's how it works. Loans aren't meant for a couple $100. They're meant for tens of thousands of dollars. That's kind of how the world works. But it's good teaching moments for kids to understand that you have to get to a certain level to participate in the ridiculous system that we live in, which is now 112 years old. Federal Reserve today. Yay. You guys were born out of Satan's seed 112 years ago. And we hope that you get sent back into the pit of hell. That would be fantastic for all of humanity. Bit, we haven't heard from you yet here today.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Why does someone ask? We can hear him. Of course we can hear you. This is a chat. This is a voice chat, my friend.
Just checking. No, things good here, man. I got a house full of young kids chasing around. We got presents all over the place need to get wrapped. I'm way behind on purchasing presents, just like everybody else here. But life is good, man. It's been interesting times. Been reflecting a lot on the future and trying to get a little bit of a visual, picture of what lies ahead. Obviously a lot of stuff going on, a lot of challenges. But I don't know, man. I think 2026 is going to be a great year. We're looking forward to Christmas, family and friends, focusing on the key stuff. And, I think in the end, like everybody says, community is going to get us through this. And, volatility is coming. So, buckle up, get your bags, get to the train station, get ready for the rocket ship, man, because it's coming.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Do you guys think that Bitcoin books are a good orange pill for holiday, or is that just like, are they just going to trash that right when you hand it to them? Any experience handing out some Bitcoin books to
Well,
kids or friends?
my experience with Bitcoin is it takes time. It's repeated exposure. So I mean, a book sitting on the table, it might not resonate with them immediately, but they're going to look at it, they're going to pick it up a few times, and eventually it'll build conviction. So I think it's not the best option, but it's definitely a good tool.
Yeah, they might not even notice the 12 words scribbled on the cover, right? They're just gonna skip right past that.
Yeah, Eddie, from experience. So last year, I think I bought 15 copies of Thank God for Bitcoin, which I think is probably the simplest Bitcoin book to digest. And it was for all Christians. So it had, every chapter is biblically based, sound advice in it. I think 2 people have reported back to me that they've read it. So statistically speaking, the best way to break down whether people will read something in today's world is very easy to do. So last year, Bible sales were up 41%. The world seems to think that that's an indicator of faith. The reality is, if you research how many people in the Bible, is totally different. But to a non-Bitcoiner, many Bitcoin books are like the Bible. Like, I don't understand money. It's supposed to help you understand money. And it becomes confusing to them or boring to them. Like, that is kind of the main thing that Bitcoin battles against, is that it's not a 2-minute. You can't learn Bitcoin in a 30-second TikTok video. Like that, you're just not going to get anything from that. And that's both good and bad. But about 13% of people who've owned a Bible for three years or more have actually read it. So, like, reading has become a very structured taboo in many people's brains, because most people are both husband and wife work. People are looking for overtime. Economy's bad. Reading, the available time to read books is down significantly in today's world. Though that means, to a contrarian thinker like me, that's the most important time to make time to read on things and learn. But that's just simply not how it really works. So I would look at this from the perspective of saying, if you're going to buy, and I buy books for people all the time, and I just, from my own personal, people will buy someone a book and they say, "Did you read that book?" And they're like, "Yeah, I read the book." And they're like, "Cool." And they move on. I grill them about the book when I like, "Oh, what did you think about this? What did you think about that philosophy in the book or that statistic?" And most of the time, the people who say yes I don't remember that in the chapter, which just kind of tells you, like, most people aren't reading books. One of the best things that I think you can do for introduction is to find a 30-minute video or a 25-minute video that walks them through basics. It's one of the reasons I posted Bitcoin 101 on my YouTube, is because it's 42 minutes and it's pretty easy to understand, with illustrations that walks through the history of Bitcoin, how mining works, the whole thing in 45 minutes. Even that gets like 6 minutes of view time, so not everyone's watching it. And I think that Bitcoin has to be, your desire to understand Bitcoin is born out of fear or greed, like everything else financially. So whether it's, I want to make more money and this is an appreciating asset, they're going to study that side of the equation. Or I'm fearful for the economic conditions, I want to find something different, they'll look at it from that angle. Or I'm sick of government censorship, government overreach, and they'll look at it from that angle. So getting books out there, I don't know if it's the best thing, but I can tell you from my experience last year with Thank God for Bitcoin, 2 people came back to me and said, "I read the book. This was my favorite chapter. I loved how they made this analogy and drew this conclusion at the end," but that's a very, maybe 20%, less than 20% will read it. Not to poo-poo on it, because a gift is a gift and a book is a book and education is education, but it's up to the end. When you leave it up to the end user for them to gain knowledge, ultimately, unless it's something they're passionate about, they're just going to discard it.
Yeah, like as you get into Christmas and all the Bitcoiners are kind of thinking about what they're gifting and stuff. I think a lot of people just want to think about what is the next orange pill. Like what's the next best orange pill? And yeah, I guess the books are some routes. We talked about the gift cards are being some routes, but yeah, I think it's just a repeating question every year for me on like how am I going to orange pill this particular person or this particular family member, and yeah, and just thinking in those terms, like what is the new orange pill? So if anyone else
If I
has the
can,
answer to that.
if I can give advice on this situation, I would think that changing your paradigm would be the most pertinent thing you can do, because we often think, how can I orange pill that person? That person will only orange pill themselves. All you can be is a conduit. And the best way to truly get people into, Bitcoin is a lifestyle choice to a certain degree. You're choosing to not be part of the system. You're choosing to not be inflated away. You're choosing to, you know, boycott Wall Street. You're choosing to do all these other things. It's a choice that you're making. It's a conscious decision. And the best way to make that decision desirable to someone else is to live the example. It's the same thing when like you meet a guy on the street and he's like, let me talk to you about Jesus. You're not going to listen to that guy. But when you see somebody who's totally calm in their lifestyle, like, why are you calm? And they answer, because of faith. That's a different paradigm. And the best way to live that is to, drop little nuggets here and there. The best way to grow a farm is to drop a seed. You don't just make plants. So you just drop little seeds over time, live a good life, be a good person. People will ultimately wonder, what are these things that give you so much peace in such an uncalm world? And you'll be able to say to them, well, I have sound money and it's completely protected from the government. And they'll say, why is that? How does that work? And that's when you kind of get there. And that's my style. It's not everyone else's, but I think that we try to, evangelize and force feed people Bitcoin. And I think that in a world where every time if you're on the internet for 30 minutes, you've seen probably 100 ads, whether you recognize them or not, pop-ups, pre-rolls, all the things that people see. We're just bombarded with marketing and advertising, and the human brain has learned to turn that off or to ignore it. And I think the best way to get people interested in what you're interested in is to just do it on your own, live your own life, be a good person. Ultimately, they ask you questions. That's when their interest peaks. Does that make sense?
Don't you
Kind
guys
of a,
find this hard? I've struggled trying to bring people with me for a long time, financially, with Bitcoin, with privacy, understanding sovereignty. I've I don't know about you guys, but I'm a lot more jaded than I ever was before. Uh, I'm more just collect the Bitcoins for myself, and you can give your loser uncle a job or give your nephew a place to stay when he's going to school. I don't know. Am I the only one that's super jaded?
no, actually, use that to your advantage. Like I would say probably, I don't know, at least 50% of the time I talk with someone and either I bring up Bitcoin or they bring up Bitcoin and they ask me a question, I always tell them you shouldn't buy it. And they're blown away. Like, they're like, oh, I saw you on Bitcoin today, or I saw you posted on Twitter about Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin? I'm like, it's probably not for you. And they're
Well,
like, why? And I'm like, well, you love the banks. I mean, that's what you're into. You love being a slave to the system. That's pretty obvious in the way that you conduct things. Or you're a stock guy, so you're not going to understand it. If you don't understand it, you won't buy it. Just gotta try to challenge people. Probably half of the time when I talk, it depends on who I'm talking to. But men in particular respond to challenges, and instead of trying to make it, they're going to hear what Bitcoin is, and it sounds too good to be true, because everyone here, when you first started learning about Bitcoin, you kind of get that this sounds too good to be true thing, which is where a lot of the FUD comes from. But when you start researching the network, you start realizing too good to be true is coded, and when it's coded and hard coded into a system, it's not too good to be true. It is what it is. And I think that many times, the more people will always want things they can't have. And if a lot of times, I noticed when I first started, quote unquote, orange pilling people, that they were playing with me. Oh, tell me about Bitcoin. And then at the end, they were like, yeah, I'm still not interested. Like, well, I don't make a commission on this sale anyway, buddy. I really don't care if you're interested or not. Live your life, challenge them to learn things. And more often than not, with like aggressive alpha male guys, just be like, it's not for you, man. You shouldn't get into it. Stay away from it. It's certainly not for you. I mean, you should continue to just stack money that melts at 8% a year. That's been your strategy. It's worked out well so far. Hopefully, it will in the future.
well, to be
Kind of
the
play that
Grinch
card.
again, to be the Grinch again. I mean, I would just plead with you to be very, very, very careful who you are trying to educate, who you're trying to spend time talking with people about Bitcoin. And you know, I deal with a lot of high net worth clients we support, and the advice I give to them regularly is don't talk about Bitcoin at the bar, don't talk about it at the sauna, don't talk about it at the office anymore. And it's because we're entering a time where these wrench attacks, these home invasions, these things are happening more and more all the time. Just recently, there was a family targeted in my very upscale neighborhood here. People came directly from India. Their home was invaded for 14 hours. Their teenage daughter was sexually assaulted. They were waterboarded. And the only reason the police were able to catch these guys is because they were in the home for 14 hours. These people didn't show up for work. The kids didn't show up for school. Um, they just arrested a crew in the US. They connected with 156 home invasions targeting individuals with cryptocurrency. And the only reason the feds got involved was because they were going state to state. They had committed home invasions in 5 different states. Not one of the single states had enough interest or appetite in going after these people. But once they started going cross border multiple times, it became a federal issue. A young lady was targeting people on social media, and then 4 young men would show up with guns. And so, again, just be really cognizant of who you're making an effort to teach this stuff to, who you want to talk to about this stuff. Focus on the loved ones and shut the fuck up otherwise. That's my opinion.
Damn, great
Yeah,
advice.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, like I see Bitcoiners that I know are big Bitcoiners walking around with hats and shirts and socks and shoes, and it's great. You want to evangelize, but yeah, that's a very real threat. And if people are coming from foreign countries to do it, I mean, right now, I mean, we're sitting on here, like we're also talking about self custody. Well, I think multi-sig is a great way to protect your money, by the way, in those exact examples, because you can have two wallets 150 miles apart. You know, it's pretty good way to protect it. But yeah, wrench attacks are becoming very normalized. It's also another great way to sell Bitcoin is like, are they wrench attacking you for your treasuries? Are they wrench attacking you for gold? Are wrench attacking for Bitcoin primarily? Definitely a topic I don't want to get into for Christmas, but Thomas is going to bring it up for sure because this is definitely it's a certain reality. You're in danger no matter what you do in a falling economy where the lower and middle class are being priced out of literally sweatshirts, bread, anything simple. Crime arises, period. Like there is no way around the fact that in a K-shaped economy, crime will always go up. And what they will always do is lessen numbers when it comes to FBI reports and things like that to create calmness. But crime is at record levels in America right now. And advertising you have a lot of Bitcoin is a terrible idea in general. And in most cases, it's kind of futile. Like it doesn't really make an impact on the people you're around to talk about it. And certainly don't be bragging about what you have. Never tell anybody how much Bitcoin you have. That's
Can
ridiculous.
can I ask you a question, Eric?
Sure.
Of all the people you've given Bitcoin,
hmm
how many of them have started buying Bitcoin for themselves? Like what percentage? Because for me, it's very low.
Yeah, it's low. I don't, I kind of go, the last sweep I did, just my empirical data, nonsense data of like, I bought you Bitcoin. Do you still have the Bitcoin? That number is pretty high. And then the conversion to self custody from River or this year from Fold, also pretty low. The amount of people who started buying it, I'll give an example of my last year at the oil and gas company where I bought 18 people. I think it was 18 total people on our team. I bought everybody Bitcoin. Like I said, 2 of them had sold it, which were, you know, kind of admin folks, probably needed the money, totally get it. The rest of them still had it. I know 3 of them now are whole coiners, and I know 1 of them now has, he told me he has over 5 Bitcoin. Those are very high paid salespeople or executives, so they had extra cash to put in. But that was 2023, so they're pretty happy about that as well. But that's pretty low. So 4 out of 18 bought more, 4 or 5 out of 18. I
Yeah,
consider
yeah.
that a tremendous win. But they're financial people too, right? So they're raising capital for oil and gas deals, so they're very financially minded. I would say in general that number is probably less than 10%.
One more question for you. I was considering myself an educator in this space for a long time, you know, dating back several years now. Less so these days. What's your experience with people asking about hardware wallets? It's still something I force the conversation regularly, but is that something you generally have experience with hosting these rooms? I don't hear it come up as often as I wish, as it used to. What's your guys' opinion? Does anybody care about hardware wallets anymore? Is everyone just buying Bitcoin by email? Jesus Christ, are we all screwed?
Personally, Bitcoin by email is hilarious. But personally, I just stopped saying all the jargon. Like I'm just like everyone here knows what a cold wallet is. We know what a seed freight is. We know we all know what's going on. But for the people that don't know, they don't know. And so I'm done using the jargon of here, get a cold wallet and do this and do that. And I just feel like you lose a lot more people than you'll ever gain that way. And that's just my opinion. Like in the world of 2025 where quote unquote paper Bitcoin became so popular, I just don't see a world where everyone's going to use the same jargon as we do, even if Bitcoin becomes the most mainstream thing in the world. um, you're going to have these wallets and these third parties and these apps connect with banks like BitGo and Bitcoin type banks too, maybe. And that's just how I see it, where the regular person, like Eric was saying, is you like the bank, you love the bank, you've been using this melting money for so long, it's worked for you, it's going to hopefully it continues to work for you. So I think that person is just going to be way more enthusiastic about their Bitcoin being kept on Robinhood, being kept on the Fold app, and them having to deal with all of the back end stuff, and even things like we were talking about earlier with BIP 85. Like when you say things like that, people are logging off already. They're like in their head, like I'm done here. But
Good.
when we actually talk about it, it's a fantastic protocol or software wallet protocol. So, yeah, I'm sick of losing people trying to explain people like the terms and glossary definitions and stuff. It's just it's much easier to just talk about the code. It's in the code, 21 million. And maybe if someone has more questions beyond that, maybe I'll give some extra reference there. But you kind of just want to throw your fishing rod out there with like the best bait possible, right? And using jargon and stuff is never good bait for these beginners, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah, jargon is absolutely going to repel them 100%. But at the same time, it's also, the stats are correct, but I think that time rotates. Right now, the only use of Rails, of blockchain of any sort, is really an enthusiast based, right? So we're still in the enthusiast market where, people who are using, Solana Rails or Bitcoin or anything, that's a very tiny amount. But when we start seeing mass adoption, which the Clarity Act and all these other things and banks getting into it, you're going to see more and more people learning the technical skills, and they're going to make it simpler. So I think that over time, I'm looking at some of these layer 2 projects from an investor perspective, and some of the interfaces that they're making are very simple. And I think people are going to start making Bitcoin much more simple. You got to remember, like 5 years ago, self-custodying Bitcoin was, you kind of needed like a computer science degree from the average person's perspective to do it. Now it's getting simpler. So give it time. I think that we're going to go through rotational periods. I don't think that the ETF will overwhelm self-custody over a 12 to 15 year period. I think it balances out. I think a majority of people are still going to do that, but I think you're going to see over time more and more people saying, well, why do I want BlackRock holding my Bitcoin? I can do it myself. It's easier to do now. So give that time. But we've got Ricardo up here. He's been up here with his hands up, and then we're going to go to Gen X.
Rob, Eric. I'm just going to tell you, guys, a great Christmas Bitcoin story that happened to me yesterday. I've been using Bitcoin since 2014, kind of for savings, remittances, stuff like that. And I got this he's the husband of one of my cousins. Got him into Bitcoin in probably like in 2016, and he understands a lot of the whys and how to do stuff. And he also started using it for remittances back almost 10 years ago, and doing cool stuff with Bitcoin. Then it goes to like a couple of years ago. I didn't know it, but he actually saved a whole coin and with the 24 word seed phrase, and he got the brilliant idea of changing 2 of those words, for a little bit safer storage of those of that paper, right? So happened to meet him. He lives in a different country that I'm here in Mexico right now. So he got vacation break last week here in Mexico, and he started telling me this story. He's switched those 2 words, and he has this bitcoins for probably 2 years without being able to access it and stuff like that. And my head was like, all right, I think that I can help you with that. And I didn't stop thinking about that. He already was sure that it was lost and he couldn't do anything. So the cool thing is that a couple days ago, I started playing with code. I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer, but I understand a lot of what's behind the curtains, right? A lot of what you're mentioning about reading and really understanding what's going on and why, and what are the chances and stuff like that, right? So I started creating code with AI. Of course, I don't know still at that moment, and I still don't know the words of the other words of the 22 correct words of the seed phrase, right? So I started playing with code and giving ChatGPT kind of instructions of what I wanted to do. They didn't seem to work. I mean, it was crap most of what I was getting. I started playing with other tools like Claude and stuff like that, and I was getting like closer, but I couldn't actually get something really good reading. Although I thought I was building something really simple, right? But it was not. I mean, those tools are not ready for building that smart but simple coding that I needed. Then what happened is that my buddy, he told me that, all right, there's one more thing. I know the exact address that is holding the Bitcoin. You know, the complete address that is holding the Bitcoin. And I said, all right, that breaks actually the thing that I'm trying to that completes the thing that I'm trying to build. So I have 22 words, 2 words that I don't know that are kind of mixed up or changed at all, and I got the final address. And I was like, I think I can get this now. And I started playing again with those tools, trying to get them to build something. And then I bumped into one tool that I want to bring up that it's very, very, very cool. That is the AI Studio from Google tool. That actually, from my perspective, this week that I tried to play with it and with all of the other tools, it's perfect, man. I mean, it's kind of flawless what these guys are doing and how it's going to change history for a lot of us. And maybe if you guys have something like I'm telling you right now, it's a great tool. So I started playing with AI Studio, and I started telling it things like, right, I got these 22 words, I got these 2 words that I don't know what they are. So it has to test at least 4 million combinations of words, and he can do that. But then it starts to try to find out what are of the
Ricardo,
derived addresses. Go ahead.
the anticipation's killing me, man. We'll work through the how later. Let's get to the end of the story here.
No, so the thing is that I started like breaking down that piece of code in 2 different tasks, and it doesn't do the job. I mean, I'm ready to close the windows, and at the last moment I see something that it generates that it's like a perfect screen and perfectly created buttons and stuff like that. And I said, all right, let's give it a test. And I tried the thing, and it starts going ahead with like a generator that like a seed that I generated. And at the middle, it finds the address. It finds the 24 words. It highlights what are the words. And I said to my friend, all right, I think I got it. go ahead and test it. I mean, you can download this and do it in your own computer. He goes back and tell me, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go as fast as I can. As soon as I get the words, I'm going to get it out. And then he writes me like, he sent me a voice message that, right, man, give me your wallet. Give me your wallet address. And I was like, why? What do you mean? Did you get it or not? And he's like, man, I cracked the code. It got almost 3.8 million combinations at the end, and it found the exact 24 words. It even had a copy button, like you can click and copy the seat. And he got it right away. He didn't even spend like probably 2 seconds to send that to another wallet. And yeah, that's a cool story. He saved 1 Bitcoin from from being left out of forever, and I really helped him. Like it actually took me like 4 hours, man. And from using AI Studio, I really highly recommend it for you guys to understand it. And it's amazing.
So you
Go
helped
ahead.
him.
So if you have any questions, go ahead.
Yeah, you helped him get back $87,900 right before Christmas. That's probably the most awesome story ever. And did he send you
That's
Bitcoin?
really
That's a Christmas miracle.
No. I said to him, I don't want
Good for
anything
you.
from that wallet. I don't want anything. That's a great gift. I know that you said he worked a lot for. He didn't get that Bitcoin in for $300. I know he really worked hard for that savings account. And I said to him, I don't really want anything, man. Just let. I want the I want the picture. Please send me the screenshot of the solution. I'm gonna share that with you guys today in one Twitter post. And send me that screenshot. I'm gonna
Please do
frame
not
it and
put his
send
24
it.
words out on a tweet, because that's going to be a whole nother mess there, Ricardo. But you did it.
Exactly.
You did it the right way, though, man. A couple surveys says that makes everything worth it. Good for you, man. That is an awesome Christmas story. Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Gen X, you had your hand up as well.
Hey, cool story, man. Yeah. I encourage people to, even if you're not going to, let's say, profit necessarily from something, just the process of learning about something is always beneficial. So good for you, man. This isn't against you, Eddie, at all, but when I hear people talk about, this technical jargon, there's a negative connotation to it. But I just want to, and I understand what people mean, the UX behind Bitcoin, a lot of tech today. It's important to understand like the demographic of people. Not everybody was around during Y2K or the dot-com boom, and there's a lot of technical confusion by a lot of people. But you have plenty of people who are in their older age, older boomers, who they don't have an issue learning this stuff because they have a will to. I just want to comment though that when we say technical jargon, just to remember that technical jargon is what allows people to understand something for themselves. And we have this issue, especially this cycle, of people putting TradFi people all in one bucket and maxis all in one bucket that were against what other people do. Like, to each his own. That is not what's going on here. And there's a lot of new people here that I think we have to remember to be patient with, because we were all new. And that jargon, though, is also what saved people from losing their ass when it came to people like Mashinsky with Celsius and all the other scams out there that actually gave somebody the ability to know something for themselves. For others that want, it's not for everybody. And that's where I think people start putting all maxis in one bucket, saying that, well, you all say self-custody only for some people, but some people just will not have the ability or the interest and incentive. And it's better for them to stay in some of these other instruments. And that's fine for them. I wish them the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
1,000% take the same stance, is to each his own. And, I will always advocate for self-custody. That's my style. I'm a bit of a paranoid prepper, and that's just my personality. But I think everyone should learn self-custody, and they should have a portion of their holdings in self-custody for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I've never been the guy who, if you want to have an ETF and that's better for you, that's, go for it. That's
Yeah,
totally fine.
not you or not anybody
I
ever. I'm
hate
just
it, but
saying
it's fine. It's not my
a
money.
lot of newer people I know, they hear all these voices, and because somebody was in Bitcoin for a long time doesn't mean that they're a good person, B, really know what they're talking about. But the other point I wanted to mention that good guy was talking about, the other thing to consider is if you have the time to orange pill people or the interest, is what kind of technical debt are you imposing on yourself in the future? It's not really good to somebody if I use this jargon, as we say, like I got to come to their level if they're ready, if I'm interested, but am I setting myself up for them to be dependent on me? Because I don't want that. So it's important to, step people in if you're interested. And there's other ways to orange people as well. It doesn't always have to be, you know, finding out, pressuring them. I wouldn't recommend. That's not fun for anybody.
There's a piece of this that's being missed, I think, still, and it's the future implications of emerging technologies and a lot of these new problems people are having. The artificial intelligence, the fake AI videos, the public-private key is a solution to that, right? We sat with Canadian government, we did some consulting,
Yeah, maybe the
and
only solution to that, good guy.
yeah, absolutely. And they 100% agreed with us that, the Canadian government spends $14 million on average a year resetting government service passwords for citizens. And that's all taxpayer money, just resetting passwords. And a public and private key system solves all of those issues. The credit cards and the mortgages, the insurances, the tax systems, but their main stipulation, the main concern for them is the education that's required. And they related it a lot to the anti-littering campaigns we did here in Canada. As a young man, they did a lot of the anti-littering propaganda. I think it's good, but it's government funded information. It took 15 years for them to make a significant difference here, to change the way people thought about that. And they're assuming it's going to take 25 years of understanding public and private key before people won't be giving it to scammers and having their deeds taken from them. And if these are immutable chains, we don't have a way of going and fixing those processes after the fact. So it's a good solution. And the not your keys, not your coin stuff, the don't trust, verify stuff, it's very important. It's inevitable people will have to use public private key stuff to verify messages and videos and phone calls from their family, for banks to verify transfers. This type of privacy and security. So a lot of people are going to get taken advantage of between here and there, though. So the sooner we can teach our loved ones about those things, the they're going to have a 15-year leg up on the rest of society.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced that AI is being allowed to be used in the way it's being used, because there's incredible uses for AI. There's incredibly nefarious uses for AI as well. And I think that part of that is to drive home digital ID, where digital ID could be easily avoided with public-private key. But that's not in the government's best interest. So keep an eye on that. That's a development. Biometrics will be very big in 2026. You're going to see a huge push for, if you make it, there's so many scammers out there who they never prosecute. None of these scammers get prosecuted, by the way. But there's so many of them out there that they're going to make a big push that, we need to have digital IDs to keep things safe, and we need your biometrics to make a PayPal payment. It's already beginning, so it's not conjecture. That's already starting. I think Visa's already kicking off that program in Europe. But keep an eye on that. That's a very good point there, good guy. We got Thomas, we got Robert up here as well, so I want to say hi to you guys. But go ahead, good guy, go ahead. Or not, Thomas, Robert, how are you guys? Good to see y'all.
Hey, Merry Christmas. I was just been
Merry
out and about
Christmas.
stuff and enjoying listening to this.
Are you last minute shopping, Thomas?
I'm all kind of. It's like my dad used to do that. He used to go on Christmas Eve and do whatever he had to buy, So I'm probably going to do the same thing. So it's I don't like to buy a lot of gifts. I think I as an old guy get I turn into a bit of a curmudgeon, right? Because people have too much shit, and a lot of times the gifts just turn into more stuff that you don't need. So I just focus more on the spending time with people and things like that, experiences, going out to dinner, going on a trip, doing something together, as opposed to, buying a shirt or, something like that no one needs. Especially when you get older, you have everything you want anyway. So I feel bad.
Thomas, you don't like my shirts?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Puncher, I noticed you're not going to get a Christmas card from FMT this year.
He might be on a call. Robert, what's going on, my friend? Infra, Robert. Hola. Hola from Ricardo in Mexico. Just kidding. This is Eric. Everyone's silent. Can anyone else hear anyone?
Yeah, I hear you, Eric. Robert and Punch seem to be off the mic for some reason.
They're just
But
trying to torch you guys by listening to me even further. That's all
we
they're doing.
can still continue like what Gen X was saying. I agree with mostly what Gen X and Good Guy are saying. But one thing that I would like to, my prediction for it is that once we hide all the jargon, once we hide the wires, and everybody is using Bitcoin, eventually the people who need to use the tools like cold storage and cold wallet, they will find that. And one of the examples I would point to is like on the internet, the hyper text transfer protocol, HTTP. We all use it. Nobody probably even knew the acronym until now, except for
I do.
some elite people on stage. Like, so that's what I was gonna say. But and we're using this every day. And when the world started using this, no one really needs to know this technical protocol that's in the background, right? But eventually, the people who did need to have privacy started using things like BitTorrents and quote unquote decentralized servers, IPFS, yada yada. And they are able to find those tools and use them. And I think it'll be similar to Bitcoin. It's like once we hide all the wires and the jargon, eventually people who need to see the wires, they'll still have the tools available since Bitcoin has been around for so long. And that's just kind of like a macro way of that I think about it is like, just no one really knows what HTTPS does or has to know what it does to use it. But again, if you wanted to send some encrypted messages or some private things from Russia to Russia, whatever, you can hop on some BitTorrents and some other protocol based stuff. And that's just how I see it. Is like the people who are going to need the cold wallet and stuff like that, they're gonna find that eventually. But that's it's still just a long game from there.
Husky, what's going on? And then we got Bit after that.
Hey,
Stay tuned, Bit. You're next.
how's it going? Yeah, I know what HTTPS is, but I'm probably, in the small group there. Background in IT and cybersecurity, so have the TCP/IP guide at home on my bookshelf. Um, I wanted to bring up the hardware wallet thing. I think it's interesting. I've joined a number of these Bitcoin spaces as I've gotten into it recently, and I haven't really heard any talk about it. To Good Guy's point, like, I got a hardware wallet. I'm not, like, I can do my own research. I understand a lot of technical jargon. I understand, one-way hashes. I understand some stuff about encryption, a little bit of coding background. But like, I love to have like a pros and cons talk. Like, what's everyone using hardware wallet wise, and like, what are your guys' like horror stories, right? Or like the good and the bad of it, because I try and look at everything. It's
We can try to set that up for next week. I think that's a great Wednesday conversation, Lauren and Terrence. That's really go through that. And we did a horror story a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of fascinating. Everyone always points to I didn't get in early enough, but at the end of the day, the stories you hear about, like I lost 5 Bitcoin, like they're vaporized. I have no idea where they are. I got paid 5 Bitcoin for a gig I did in like 16 or 17. No clue where it is because I didn't care at the time. It didn't mean much to me. I was like, oh, I'll hold this and I'll sell it. I totally lost the wallet. But yeah, no, Husky, I think that's important, especially for guys who've been in it a long time. I think you'd be shocked. I've heard a lot of these horror stories. I think you would be shocked to hear how many mistakes big Bitcoiners have made over the years. And I think that humility helps people understand how to avoid them.
Well, and yeah, and I don't have too much into it, but I've been building it, right, and I plan to continue to build it. And it's like a blessing and a curse. My wife hates it, but since I've been working in cybersecurity for 10 years, I see everything through the lens of a risk assessment. And that's how I view kind of my choice that I've made initially. I know it's not like the perfect option for the hardware wallet, but I just I look at all the bad things that can happen, and I don't know what all those are in the Bitcoin world. Um, and I want to understand that so I can make kind of the best options, and then get on my own path to um, getting better backups or better wallet options or what have you. So cool, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we'll
Eric.
work on it. Go ahead, Bit.
Yeah, sorry, I think I got chopped off earlier. I was just going back to the good guy's point too, and it follows the thread. Kind of feels like a lot of this is just like the thesis and the sovereign individual playing out, right? Like the nation state is struggling to adapt to a very technically advanced future, and as you can hear it, right? Like if you're on the leading edge of technological adoption, you're picking all this stuff up, you're embracing it, you're preparing for the future, but I mean, there's giant swaths of the earth that are just going to be miles and miles behind. And I don't know. It's interesting because like which resolves faster, right? Like does the velocity of the thesis in the sovereign individual play out so fast that we get like a fracture point, or does the rest of the world actually catch up to this thesis? Like I think that plays into Dark's big long. It plays into the development in the space. It's just something. It's a fascinating time we find ourselves in. I don't know.
Yeah, why can't it be both though? The way I see sovereign individual playing out is I think that there's 4 or 5% of the population that catches on quick, and then everyone else sees that and slowly gets bled into it over time. But you're right, the acceleration of change right now is undetermined, right? Because we don't really know where it ends up. But what we're seeing right now, think back to 2024, January 2024. Almost none of these conversations were happening. ETFs are like 18 months or something like that old. So previous to that rate of adoption was kind of tethered, right? Like it was like, okay, well, you're buying Bitcoin, but you're buying it through an ETF. But now the conversations are definitely going back in many spaces to self-custody, at least a portion of holdings. And that's just in Bitcoin. Now we're going to have multiple rails launched, bank rails, stablecoin usage is really exploding. And I think that technological development or evolution, I think it happens for some people real fast and for others over a couple of years. That's just my opinion. Could be wrong.
I think you're right, man. I think the security side is very interesting too. Thomas brought this up in a few spaces earlier, talking about in the likely future, people that have this technology they've onboarded it, they have a requirement for security, and to take on the responsibility of what what you have all these additional implications that you have to onboard, and that's tough, man. Like I just don't know how many people are going to be able to meet that demand. So I don't know. I guess it just goes back to, do we have an accelerating tale of two cities? Like Robert's pointed out and Tom's pointed out, or what? I don't know. Just it's fascinating.
I would say that in the coming years, maybe sooner rather than later, OPSEC security measures will become one of the dominating themes that we discuss. And there will be services and platforms that will help you execute that. So, as a rule of thumb, think about a range of spending of 1% to 2% of your portfolio on security. Now, that security could be everything from good software tools, cybersecurity, air gap computers, multi-sig, you name it. But it also could include physical security, making sure you've got that. So somebody who has, protecting $1 million, that would mean they're spending $10,000 to $20,000. Now, most people do not do that. Now, if you go into talk to the wealthy class, let's say that's I'll use a number, say 25 million to 50 million. Very few of those people are spending 1% to 2%, and the higher the profile you have, the more it should look like 2% versus 1%. So a 2% on 25 million is quite a bit of money, and I think that very few people do that. So that's a half a million dollars, right? So very few people with 225 million are spending that kind of money, where they're having drivers take them to high profile events. They're thinking about their travel, their exposure at public events. They're thinking about their home security on top of cyber stuff. Why is this the case? Well, it's because think about two factors that are going to drive that. One is the assets that are in discussion around specifically Bitcoin are going to go up and become culturally visible, changing the business case for people pushing this. The second thing is, and this is where I would say I have probably the biggest concern, is that the tools for hacking with AI are going to probably far exceeds people's ability to comprehend what's going on. So a lot of discussion's been happening around quantum risk, and I think that's FUD. I think there's nothing behind that. Maybe in 10 or 20 or 30 years, but there really is no valid paradigm that far out when the world is changing so rapidly. And so people are, let's use quantum as an example. Somebody says, "Hey, I'm really concerned about it. I read this white paper, and I can't really figure it out, but it sounds like I should be concerned." They reach out to somebody that scammers, all of a sudden ends up with their Bitcoin through whatever protocol. So you got to be vigilant here. You got to be thinking about it, and the time to think about it is now, not in the heat of the moment. It's to think about, if you were to have better OPSEC, what would that look like? How would you manage that? And how would you set that up? Diversify your threat exposures, all kinds of different things like that. But I do think it's going to be, we talk a lot about acquisition protocols. Everybody should go get some. That's fine. That's good. We talk about self-custody and the method of how you acquire it. Everything from buying ETFs or MSTR at one end of the spectrum to multi-sig self-custody on the other end of the spectrum, and everything in between. But I do think OPSEC is going to be important, because the OPSEC threats are different in that spectrum of MSTR all the way through multi-sig self-custody. There is no risk-free ownership. They have different levels of responsibility and different levels of security. And as much as you study Bitcoin, you should be studying how to protect the ownership once you acquire it.
Super valid point there about hackers. We talk about the way we're sold things, right? Like nobody denies new innovations are sold to people. You could say they're educated, but they're sold. We're sold this advancement and efficiency in business, but hackers that's a business too, and they're going to be accelerated, probably faster than corporations, because they don't have guidelines or guardrails. Thomas, great point about OPSEC. I think it's such an important topic to talk about. But Ryan, I want to go to your hand here next.
What is up, Eric? Man, happy holidays to you and yours.
Merry Christmas, brother.
Prayers. Yeah, bro. Puncher, Robert, Thomas, same to you. Thomas, enjoy your first married Christmas. That is always a great one. No, I don't know if I certainly don't want to derail this conversation, but I had a question from somebody last night at a Christmas party, and I really didn't know the answer, and so I started kind of digging into it, and I got to be honest, there's not a lot of clarity around it, and I'm thankful G Money's not up on space because it's around taxes. But so I don't know if you want to field it. Maybe I was thinking about sourcing some info from this group to get some feedback on it.
Are you asking me the day before Christmas Eve if I want to talk about government thievery?
Yes. No, well, we're all gonna pray to Jesus and thank God for his birth, and hopefully he will remove us from the sin of taxation at some point. But it actually was an interesting question. I mean, the guy, he got in, he jumped in, he bought, he's not hardcore wealthy, but he bought 3 Bitcoin when it was around 118,000 this year. And his question to me was, somebody had put him on to me and just said I spent a lot of time in this arena, and he said, I have a question for you. The rules around the wash sale and the taxation around selling and when you can buy back in are very unclear right now. I can't seem to find anything about it. I was hoping maybe you had an answer, or you could reach out to people. And I started doing some deep dives into it. And his point was this: if I sell now, I can harvest the tax loss for 2025. And because there are the rules around wash sales and Bitcoin are unclear, I can immediately buy back in and reset my cost basis. His point wasn't that he wants to get out of it. His point was, is there a way to arbitrage that? So I don't know. I was just throwing that out there as sort of
Well,
it
it's
kind of
asset
was
for an
one of those.
asset, right? You can just use the wrapped version of Bitcoin and then trade back into the Bitcoin. I think you'd have to take the 30 days, from my understanding. You want to be
I don't
compliant.
think so. See, I can't find anything on good. I can't find anything on the 30 days.
Well, that's a negotiation they would put on the table, right? So you'd have to have a negotiation about the tax with the taxman about that. Regardless, those laws keep changing. I would personally
Well, I
wait
I
the
don't know
30
if the
days or
laws
put it
keep
into a
changing.
different version of Bitcoin, a wrapped version of the Bitcoin, and then unwrap it back
Right.
to Bitcoin. That would be a taxable event, but I think that would be definitely considered a different asset.
But if it's a taxable event, it's also you can can't you
Ryan,
write off the loss?
Ryan,
That's the intention.
What? If,
Yeah.
let me kind of end this thing and get back to you with this. So our accountant for our firm was the first accountant doing crypto funds. Like, there's really nobody in the world that understands crypto tax as well as he does. Why don't you let me reach out to Dane today, and then I'll DM you what he tells me. I'll just cut and paste the text that he tells me from an accountant, as opposed to talking to guys who aren't accountants about tax stuff. Will that
All right,
help?
cool. I didn't want to derail, but you I think you understand what he was asking me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
but none
we're
of us
here
have
at
the
the end
answer.
of
We're
the
not
year.
qualified for it. I don't even
Yep.
want to get into tax advice on this. There's already enough borderline financial advice on these things. Let me ask Dane, and then I'll DM you as soon as he gets back to me. Probably be after Christmas.
Appreciate it, brother.
You got it, man. You got it.
Yep.
question?
Go ahead.
Could I ask a question on that? Isn't part of owning Bitcoin just like future optionality? I mean, if we're in a situation where we are now with the country where we're going after tariffs, potentially getting rid of income tax, is there an expectation that tax on Bitcoin may just completely go away, and then you have you've made some sort of loss in the past for no reason? I mean, that's kind of a logical question, yeah.
Well, let me give you a logical answer. So that is conjecture, theory, and propaganda at the moment. Period. Point blank. There's no way around that. Removing income taxes will require an act of Congress. Congress gets a lot of their money from banks. Banks love IRS and taxes. So until that becomes a reality, I would advise people to plan the way that they do their life exactly the way that it is today, and not worry about what could be in the future. I'll also state that taxes and tariffs are double taxation on people. That's a very point blank fact. It doesn't matter who's in office and what they say they claim to do in the future. Until it's done, things are the way they are. And I think that's, I've been in this stuff for a long time. And I remember in 2021, people saying, oh, they're going to get rid of student loan payments and get rid of credit cards and all these things. And a lot of people bought into it, and they ran up debt and they ran up loans that they can't get out of right now. So my best advice to anybody when we're talking about politicians saying, but by the way, politicians have filed to end the Fed and end the IRS about every 3 years since about 1950. So this is not a new thing. This is something that many politicians have used to gain favor in voting terms over a period of time. Until it is passed and we have no IRS, just act accordingly for the way that the laws are written today.
Yeah,
Best advice I'll give.
I'm definitely not advocating anything like that, but I'm just stating the point. I think never before in the history of America has things become so uncertain, right? I mean, literally, if you look at what's happening, everything's on the table. I mean, the fiscal situation is dire. Populations are dwindling. You have jurisdictions that are competing for people. You have, offshore areas that are becoming more attractive to people. So I don't know. I mean, I just think there's a shimmer of asymmetric upside for this asset if it just sits there and you don't touch it, right? You just keep it there.
Agreed.
Don't move it, don't touch it, and just wait for things to play out favorably, right?
That's absolutely the best advice you can give right now, and you're 100% correct. We've never seen this much exposure of the fragility of all systems, whether it's financial systems, banking institutions, government structures, government agencies. That tremendous amount of turmoil is something I always state over and over again. If you've studied enough, you've paid attention enough, you have a good idea where the ball is going. Make your bets today, sit on them with confidence and conviction, and let the world play out. There are certainly major changes on the way. I mean, I think Trump did a press conference this morning about robots and factories and all these things. That's coming. There's no stopping that. What will come of that and what ends up being the new reality? There's probably about 50 different paradigms that could occur in the future. We have no clue. But what we do know is that rapid change is coming, and it will come rapidly. It'll be a slow drip and then a switch. And I think that we are looking at the big long play out. I think we're looking at the crack up boom. The Dark talks about those two things all the time playing out. The crack up boom is about as obvious as it possibly could be with silver, and really no one talks about platinum, but platinum has outpaced silver for the last 14 days. These are big signs, big changes on the way, but we don't know what they are.
$2.18. Hey, Thomas, sorry. Hey, Eric, I have to bounce. I apologize. Being a terrible co-host.
No worries.
But
No worries. You're with a
thank
terrible
you, buddy.
host, so like I set it up for
No,
video
you're
and
the
not
best.
recording
You
today.
kidding me? You're the best. Hey, everybody, thank you so much, guys. I can't tell you how much I appreciate these spaces and everybody in them. And we got a good thing going here. So just Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll talk soon. Enjoy your families.
Merry
See you
Christmas,
guys.
brother. God bless you and the family, man. I hope you guys have an incredible time.
Eric, I was going to say, platinum's up 7% today.
It's just ripping.
Yeah, I mean, I started following. We had Larry Lepard on one of the Friday spaces. Maybe it was about 3 weeks ago. And anyway, it was interesting listening to him because he's a Bitcoiner, but he has a little bit of a broader macro perspective on investing and things like that. So I like listening to him. His I would say his style and his approach kind of matches my business partner, who he and I have weekly calls on sort of what's going on in the markets. And it's always good to have, I'm probably a lot more Bitcoin centric, and my business partner is probably more like Larry a little bit. And so we have good issues, but two things that I've been really looking at are the energy markets, like what's happening there, but more also the precious metals markets. Many Bitcoiners came to Bitcoin through the precious metals market, going back 20 years, 15 years, and we at least my thesis is we saw a lot of upside from when gold got financialized in the ETFs. You started to see a lot of price move up, but we also started to see a lot of monkey business with rehypothecation and the paper markets, and we saw price suppression, specifically in the silver market. It was pretty bad. A lot of fines paid by the big bullion banks. JP Morgan paid a lot. I think HSBC was another one that paid a lot of fines. And, because hardly anyone took physical delivery, they could run hypothecation rates 20, 30, 50, 100 in some cases, because no one was taking delivery, and they just would resolve the contracts in fiat at the end. I think, what's interesting that's happening now is a lot more physical delivery is manifesting at the end of these contracts. And I would say in general, the metals are moving east, meaning that the center of gravity is moving to Shanghai. I think the price for silver, as an example, is set in Shanghai, not in COMEX or the LBMA. And you see it like last night. We closed we closed at the financial markets like at 69 on silver. It popped to 70, but the Shanghai close was like 72 or something like that. And you saw about a $2 gap. And now we just see silver, it's at 71.15. It's going to start to gravitate to the Shanghai price. But as that's happening, the Shanghai price keeps moving up. On January 1, China, which is a big producer of silver, they're also they refine quite a bit of silver. So we send raw silver to them and they refine. They're going to stop exporting on January 1. At least they said they are. So I just think we're set up for an interesting squeeze here. So again, my thesis here is that we're going to see craziness in the financial markets as the Trump administration through the new Fed is going to push liquidity into the market. That liquidity is going to look for a home. I think we will see the classic assets front run performance. So I would expect to see silver, platinum, gold outperform Bitcoin in the short term. But those markets are all fragile. They're not anti-fragile. And I think at some point people are going to very quickly pivot from the metals to Bitcoin. The thing that I don't have a good handle on is what happens to the oil market. We're sitting at $58. It's been down. Do we go back up to 100 in a profligate banking system that is just printing money, not just in the U.S. but globally? And are we going to start chasing the oil? I don't know. I know some people are pushing that thesis. I am cautiously not agreeing with that right now, but I'm open to being convinced otherwise.
Well, I think to look at that, so I come from the oil markets, and I'm going to try to bring on Stuart Turley next Tuesday. He's a friend of mine. He runs, I think he has the first or second largest oil and gas podcast. He's an analyst in the space and truly like one of us. So I want to bring him on to talk about that either next Tuesday or the following Tuesday, because it's a very interesting market. But I think that in the oil markets, the way it's globalized and dollarized right now, I think there's a big change happening there. If you look at all the conversation, I think Trump mentioned Greenland again today. So we have Greenland, Venezuela. We'll soon be targeting Nigeria and Sudan under the cover of rescuing Christians. All four of those countries, they're major. If you just go to AI and say, what natural resources are these countries very rich in? You're going to find oil, natural gas, and gold in the top 5 of all of them. And natural gas is a more interesting market. I think oil right now, the reserves tell us that there is an overabundance of supply in the market, which is why the price is down. However, if you look at OPEC, OPEC plus, there's really no true verification of supply. So reserves and supply are totally different things. The amount of reserves that they're finding, Guyana, Venezuela, these are massive reserves. They're untapped. The amount of supply in the market and demand matching is going to be a very difficult process moving forward, because we are going to find alternative sources, like nuclear will be big in the next few years. But you have to look at the rotation of first world to third world countries. So right now, while we use primarily petroleum for cars, they're going electric. I don't think electric's going to dent the petroleum market in the end, because it's just too long to charge and all the problems that it has. But eventually you're starting to see third world countries emerging into technological advancements, which means that ultimately they'll be buying the petroleum that no one else needs, or the natural gas that no one else is using for manufacturing and facilities, which will be, AI will be huge into natural gas. So you're going to see the shift of paradigm in the coming years. It's a very difficult story to tell of how the transitioning of the demand from petroleum goes from first to third world country and everything scales up. And I think Stuart has a really good baseline on that. So I'm going to bring him on, specifically Stuart, in the next couple of weeks. Reach out to him to do that. Great guy. I think you'll really enjoy him. But he's really the one that I would turn to as an expert in the space on that, Thomas. If that'll help you out, I'll be more than happy to invite him.
Yeah. I think I just, you want to hear the whole picture, right? So, you know, if like again, we're very Bitcoin centric in our discussions, but it operates in an environment where other things are happening. So if we were to see, let's just pick a number, Bitcoin go to 250,000 at some point next year, it doesn't go to 250 in a vacuum. There's other things happening. Um, does does gold go to 8,000? Does silver go to $200? Does crude oil go to $100? What's happening to unemployment? Because all of those things, they tie into a broader, um, holistic macro view of how the Bitcoin is going to operate. And so we could see price appreciation in nominal terms on Bitcoin, but it comes at the expense of a system that's in chaos versus we grind up on everything and Bitcoin separates itself at 250. So say we're up 10% on the stock market, gold is at 4,700, silver's at 75, and nothing really moves except Bitcoin. That's a very different macro outcome. Uh, you know, think of it this way: if a grenade goes off, everyone gets wounded, and in this case, a wound is a price appreciation because of the destruction of the value of the fiat. So, I, that's so I like to learn as much as I can about that. I know the open-ended question that I have is what happens to um, what happens to oil over the next few years when energy is such a critical component of the future, and you've got other things in the energy space around the use of renewables, the use of natural gas that's stranded, and nuclear. The regulatory structure around SMRs and things like that could affect um, you know, energy consumption across the board. What happens to the crude oil, especially if the supply has the ability to flex up? Does OPEC have the capacity to keep the price under $75 just by pumping more?
Thomas, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I've thought about this as well because, if we do have a K-shaped economy or really like an I-shaped economy, and, there seems to be a real press to, force down the price of consumer-facing goods as far as possible, but at the same time, inflate assets to infinity, right? So it almost seems like almost a requirement to push down the price of energy almost to the point it becomes free, both in fuel and electricity. Because if you knew you were going into an environment where prices were going to absolutely skyrocket and leave everybody stranded, you couldn't have a profit motive in the industry because they would turn the energy off, right? So, I mean, in the future dystopic case, if it got real bad, you would have to have essentially government subsidized free energy flowing to your citizens. And I think if you look at what happened in the economy in Europe, with the price of heating oil and people just refusing to pay bills, and still consuming, that may be a foregone conclusion that is the destination that needs to be backwards planned and mitigated. I don't know, just food for thought.
Yeah,
The other thing to think about is the fact that you know um, oil is such a headline commodity for the political side of things. Oil goes up, gas prices start to follow. Everybody sees it every day when they get in their car and drive. And politically, it feels like Trump would do everything he can to keep prices down, because because it is so visible. If we see gas prices go to nationwide over $4 a gallon, um, he would view that as political liability. So they would pull out the stops to stop that from happening.
And it ties back to the price of food too, right? Like we've got beef at record high levels, fuel price is a component of that. South America is also rich with agricultural resources closer to us. And look at the pressure and focus that's been spent trying to reduce the cost of food. I mean, if you look at an inflationary, crack up boom where your food prices decouple, I mean, that gets really tough. I mean, that's what you got to guard against, right? You've got real big issues if that decouples. And I think the funny thing too, if you look at the EU, how they've been pushing the bug burgers and all the WEF bug stuff. I think it's kind of funny because the only way you can deflate the cost of food to nothing is essentially to go into bug food, right? You can grow it in a tube, you can feed it trash, and you get protein out of it. But it's an indication that your economic situation is deteriorated so far that you have to do those types of things just to keep people with heat in their homes and food on their plate. So it's a dystopic future, but it almost seems like, I mean, you see it playing out in other places, so it wouldn't be a massive departure to assume that that's what's going to happen here to some degree.
I also think when you start to think through that future view, I think it's extremely important to think very broadly about the concept of inflation. The economists will basket it up into a CPIU basket. That basket is politicized for obvious reasons, but that's not what people experience in inflation. So, and inflation again is not a monolith. It's regional, and it varies tremendously by the type of expenditure. If, for example, if you're in my government job, we look at the cost of bids that we're seeing on construction projects because we outsource a lot of projects for road paving and things like that. We're seeing a lot higher inflation than the 2%. We're seeing well into the double digits, 10, 20%. We look at the cost of, say, fire trucks or turnout gear for firemen. That's easily 20% a year. And that's a real problem because what we end up doing as a municipality is we start to pull things in and buy things and lock in prices because our cost of borrowing is low, 3% because it's tax free, and we're going to do that. We're going to make the purchase anyway, so we might as well pull it up. Anyway, it creates a lot of issues, and so I when I hear the inflation's at 3%, or it doesn't mean anything to me living in the economy. Yeah, gas prices are down. That's fine. Maybe the cost of computers might be down or different things like that within the basket. But what you experience, it varies tremendously based on where you live and how you spend money and what you spend money on.
And in that
memory is 3x though, Thomas. The cost of memory is 3x in the last year.
Yeah. That's relatively recent, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, about a year and a half, but it's 3x for memory. I mean, they say PC prices are down, but if you actually want memory, it's 3x more expensive.
I mean, if you map that situation back to historic norms, right, in other empires and stuff that have gone through expansive inflationary regimes and all that kind of stuff, I mean, deferred maintenance in your infrastructure is just like an obvious indicator, right? Like, the further you defer the maintenance because you can't afford it or you can't get it, the harder it gets to do. The faster things break down, then you've got a snowball on your hands, and it's a good indicator. I mean, I think the whole part about where we're at in this community too is like, where are we in this giant cycle? Because if you think we're going to be like Robert thinks and a couple other folks that thinks we're going to enter into this golden growth phase, then it's a whole different set of economic calculations. But if you're a little bit more pessimistic or maybe pragmatic about the future, then your economic calculations are a little bit more grounded towards worst case scenarios, and downside risks are growing in size and magnitude every day. So I get it. Like I'm in the same shoes with infrastructure. I mean, we're trying to shoestring budgets together to mitigate risk every day, and it's really tough. I mean, it's no joke. The labor shortage, the inflation. I mean, it's an untracked you know story that people don't hear much of because they're just looking at their grocery bill. And I found a lot of people don't even really follow their grocery bill. I mean, if you measure the cost of beef and like what you're actually paying at the grocery store over the last 5 years, I mean, it's dramatic, absolutely dramatic.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, like I normally get like a quarter cow at a time, and there is a really good grocery store around here that has an actual old school butcher that makes the fillets for a lot of the steakhouses out here. It's really like the best cuts. I went and got 4 of those for my family, which normally, like last time I went, was like $54. It was $99 for 4 steaks. Unbelievably expensive, and I still had to cook them.
Yeah,
Right?
I
So
mean, if you read the headlines too, I mean, just a couple weeks ago, they were projecting that ground beef in the United States would be double next year potentially. So that, I mean, that's really tough, right? Like that. I mean, ground beef prices are way up, and like we're a meat heavy family, so it hits us and we see it. But you know, it's tough living in a world where if the poverty rate is actually 140K, like they've said, 90% of Americans are underneath the poverty line and will never be above the poverty line. So it's interesting times. Trump said in a interview, it was a number of days ago. He said that America's at the tipping point, and I agree with that.
completely agree with that. That's obvious. And one other note: at the end of an empire with inflation and monetary debasement and all the things that you see, at the end of the Roman Empire, they were selling citizenship as well. Like that's something we're now doing, is selling citizenship for $1 million. Stuff
Yeah.
to look at. Stuff to look at. Yeah, you're right. It's people will say pessimistic. I think pragmatic is a better approach to it. I don't really understand the whole doomer thing by revealing facts about things that are difficult in the time we're in. I think that's just being realistic. Optimism is always like Bitcoin is optimism. Like
I know.
you should be pessimistic about what we're seeing happening right now, because what we've seen over the last 10 years is mismanagement of, or 30 years, but really accelerated in the last 10 years, where now it's overt and they don't care, right? Like they don't care if the American people know that they're doing things. And that's actually the scariest part.
Eric, I'd say too, on a couple of spaces ago, and Thomas was in this conversation as well. A bunch of questions came up about, future career paths and what should you do for your kids and what's the future look like. And, there seems to be a lot of consternation about what that should look like. And I was, in my own time, I was kind of playing around with Grok and figuring out, give me here's 2 distinctly different strategies, tell me which one comes out on top. And really, it was the complete opposite potential strategies you could have. One was, remaining an 1800s based homesteader, right? You got your own land, you got your food, you're not suffering from inflation in your food and your housing costs. And you have a small business or something like that, and you're putting all your available cash, which is probably a lot because you're not really suffering from those 2 major drivers. You're putting it into Bitcoin, which has a 30% CAGR, year over year. And you compare that model to the modern model of going to college, delaying your earnings to, your peak earning years in your 40s and 50s, whatever. Participating in an inflated suburban and urban economy with housing assets, with under pressure from inflation, and whatever you can say, putting into that 30% CAGR asset. And what's interesting is that it's not just a difference. It's not just a little bit of outperformance. It's a huge outperformance. Like the rural homesteader that has sovereignty and food and security in their home, and then chooses to participate a little bit in the economy and then put all available cash into that 30% CAGR asset, their net worth at age 45 is double or triple the urbanite. And so it's very interesting dynamic playing out, because if you think about what's happening now and you look back in history, you can imagine in the Roman Empire, as the Roman Empire began, eroding, and the rise of the latifundia became where, you had a wealthy elite starting, feudal colonies outside the limits of the city. They probably made the same calculations, like what is the cost of participating in this urban environment versus, breaking out and starting a city state. And so it's a very interesting situation we find ourselves in.
Very interesting. Coin Bazaar. I was calling on you, man.
Oh
Yeah.
my
No,
God.
just calling
I
anybody.
was about to say, yeah, thanks. I was about to say that my battery is going to down and probably I'll go off and if I get a chance to speak, probably I would go ahead and say Merry Christmas to everyone, Thomas, you and everyone out here, and have a lovely day, lovely week all the time around. And I'll just take 1 minute of yours to go ahead and say one thing only that we had a better off chance, take it in another way, that we have a better off chance to have Bitcoin being manipulated as a blockchain for 51% attack when it was being incepted. But now when we talk of the quantum, probably it's something that something has taken over, you know 15 years to build. Probably it will take, it's something like a flood. Probably it's not going to be true. I know probably that it's not going to be true. I don't know about the other. So everyone has their own conviction. Probably I'd say so. It is not going to be that easy even for the quantum. So don't get afraid for the things that's going to happen. If it took time, as I say that 51% tax was much more easier at that point of time when Bitcoin was there in the early days, probably 2010 and maybe 11, I would say, until after 12, when it actually hit the world, through mining. So mining played a big role. And secondly, quantum will not play any role as of now for next 5, 7, 10 years. Probably I would not see, but in any which ways, I'm not. I'm a person who said never say never. So if even if quantum go ahead and break something of the sort, when the Bitcoin is there, probably first thing it is not going to be. Second thing, if it is going to be FUD, which is going to be evolved by the virtue of what people talk, it would not be able to break the real code because that actually not being breakable. So that's what I want to say. There are so many things that have been talked of. Probably I would have contributed, but I'm going to lose my battery, so I'm going to take off. And thanks and happy, Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, brother. Yeah, to kind of if he was breaking up on you guys, talking about the 51% attack, that's a pure measurement of the hash rate, and we're between 1 and 1.3 zeta hash right now, which is I can't even put that into words how large that is for the network. Yeah, I think the 51% attack is not the purpose of the quantum FUD. I think the quantum FUD is really more about Satoshi's wallet, being able to crack old wallets like that. It's not necessarily the network. I don't want to say is impenetrable because I don't know enough to say that it's impenetrable. But from somebody who doesn't know enough, from a computing perspective, 51% attack is an unrealistic FUD at this point in time. Even if quantum was real, which it's not at this moment. Again, FUD comes from FUD is always a product of an invisible boogeyman. COVID was a perfect example. An invisible boogeyman scared everyone to death. In the end, it was 99.9%, survival rate if you didn't have pre-existing conditions, like any other illness. And right now, quantum is the invisible boogeyman that's fudding people out of Bitcoin or away from Bitcoin. And I think that's being done strategically because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens and it spreads through certain accounts and publications and public figures and things like that, all kind of at the same time in these 3-month waves. So about every 3 months, we get quantum FUD from someone, and it spawns off this whole new conversation. I don't think quantum is a threat to Bitcoin at the moment. I think it's certainly something we should plan for in the code and upgrade to. I think that's the purpose of decentralization, is to be able to talk about these things and make adjustments. And the faster they do it, the faster the FUD goes away. But the FUD is actually just theoretical at this juncture in time. We're still not even fully in the AI era, which would be, technological leapfrog would be, AI and then quantum. And we're not even really in the AI era yet. So good stuff, Coin. I appreciate you being on here, man. Merry Christmas. I hope all is well. We are going to shut this thing down here in a few minutes. So if anybody wants to add anything to the conversation, raise your hand here. We got a few minutes before we turn it off and get to our families and get back to the Christmas season and the joy that it brings us being around people we love. So if there's no hands coming up here, that's good. So let's go ahead and go around the horn here, and go ahead, Husky. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess you messed me. I have my hand up, but I kind of want to
Sometimes
jump.
guys I'll make when you're hosting spaces, sometimes people just fall off the panel, and sometimes you can't see hands. So nothing personal if that happens to any of you.
No, I don't take it personal. I kind of want to jump on Thomas's point from earlier. In some respects, the Gen AI threat is already here. Working in cybersecurity, like just the phishing attack vector, very sophisticated. They have multi agents set up with some of these threat actors, and the agents will do almost everything except for say click go. From the open source intelligence, gathering all your information, creating a profile about you, the phishing emails that you used to be able to spot them easily, but they can make those very sophisticated now and automated. And I would just be on your guard. Defense in depth. Um, have a disaster recovery plan. Have a business continuity plan. Um, and yeah, that's definitely like something to be worried about.
Agreed. We see Javan in 1983.
Hey y'all, I don't want to derail the conversation or take this somewhere really, really long. I know you're trying to get off air. I wanted to ask Dark yesterday, and if anybody can concisely give me an idea of what the purported silver short squeeze means for Bitcoin directly, if it was to happen.
Well, I can take a stab at it. So, I mean, the adjacency to it's first of all, it's not really a true squeeze. That's not what's happening. It's a paper issue. So the squeeze itself, I mean, you could label it that way, but what it really is adjacent to, I think where Dark is taking it, and I don't want to speak on his behalf, I'll just be as concise as possible, is that Thomas kind of articulated this a little bit earlier, is that because there was no calling of physical delivery for silver for generations, literally, people have just been layering on, knowing people won't actually call for the silver that they hold on a paper contract, that they've been writing contracts against silver. It's, depending on the research you see, it's between 200 and 300 contracts for every ounce of silver. So the squeeze is showing that the supply in these centralized hubs that are responsible for pricing and housing and delivery, that is being exposed as being manipulated or over rehypothecated. And I think the adjacency that Dark talks about is very correlated with ETFs and with Bitcoin treasury companies and the ability for paper contracts to kind of outweigh the amount of physical that exists. So I think that's really where he's taking it there. The adjacency there also comes in the fact that this is a commodity that has a finite stigma to it, right? But silver and gold are different. I personally believe that right now below the ground, there's a lot more gold than silver, and that's pretty evident in mining and the way that mining is done. So you have this more finite or recently finite, because most silver is coming from copper extraction. It's coming right alongside the gold that they're mining for. Most of the easy to catch veins of silver that exist are already tapped out. Like that's been tapped out for years. So I think the adjacency that he's speaking about is that once it's uncovered in one market boldly and broadly, that this rehypothecation model has suppressed the price of something, that the price skyrockets when people demand their physical. I think that what he's saying is that eventually that happens in Bitcoin, when Bitcoin's price is, theoretically suppressed for a period of time, and people start demanding physical delivery, selling out of the ETF and buying on the open market. Think that's where he's going with it, but I certainly don't want to speak for Dark. That's the way I see it. It's a very similar, long existing for what is currently a very infant market that we find ourselves in Bitcoin. Thomas, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, this rehypothecation is the essence of the paper market, and the algebra for the markets has changed because more people are taking delivery. A couple things. One is, China is using quite a bit in an industrial. I'm using silver now as an example. They're using it in industrial. The industrial use exceeds the current output of mining supply. Now, as Eric pointed out, most of the silver veins have been tapped. So silver is a byproduct of other mining. So when you're doing copper mining or other ore mining, silver is a sort of a byproduct there. So I think when you throw in the solar in China, there's some of the emerging battery technologies are heavy on silver. I think you're just going to see more physical delivery on these contracts, which is going to expose the paper to physical ratio, this rehypothecation. And then so we're going to have a repricing. Now, the issue of that's an open question in my mind is, does this repricing break something in the financial system because it's too much? Certainly at $75 a silver, what's it now, 71.22. It's that's not going to break it. 100 probably won't break it. 200, 300, 400, those that might break the system. And what happens when it breaks? That's where you get into the scenario modeling, the game theory. Does it break in such a way where contracts get canceled? They settle on a arbitrary price in a force majeure. So you think you own a bunch, and all of a sudden now you're an SLV ETF, and they just close the fund, and you get your money in 3 months after they settle out the claims, et cetera, et cetera. So now not only are you not getting what you thought, but you're not even exposed to the asset, and you're getting a discount on what you thought you were going to get. So there, you can think about now what happens when that goes on. All of a sudden, all eyes start to turn to Bitcoin. I think that's the scenario that people think about, because that Bitcoin is an asset where the fuckery is much harder to do. So because gold and silver are very hard to take delivery of, and ownership at scale requires the consent of the nation state, I think those things are going to ultimately be the thing that undermines those assets going forward in a digital economy. And I think that's where Bitcoin emerges. So like I said, I think in the short term, Bitcoin will underperform gold and silver and the precious metals, but I think it's a short-term play. It's a trading play. If you had to, the Grant Cardone had a nice poll out. If you had to buy something and hold it for 3 or 4 years, and you couldn't sell it, and you can only buy one, and you had to wait, which one would you buy? And it was overwhelmingly Bitcoin. I think that's the right answer. So if you're in this for the next 3 or 4 months, go trade some silver contracts or platinum contracts. If you're in this for 4 years, there's really the Bitcoin's your best bet.
Yeah, I think Thomas, you nailed it there. My thesis has always been gold, silver, platinum, then Bitcoin would be the run. And I think that Bitcoin's inherent structure of every 10 minutes it's audited, full transparency. You're right; it definitely limits the amount of tomfoolery that can happen in these markets. Limits, not eliminates. I think that's an important term to justify there as well. But you will have this run. There will be a fear factor where most of the money in the world is held by people over the age of 50. And they're going to go to gold and silver first. But I think gold and silver, over a long enough time horizon, I think silver becomes a complete industrial metal. I think there will be a run. They literally can't if they reprice silver at $500 an ounce for silver, no electronics get made. There's no solar panels. More importantly, there's no AI or quantum chips that get made. Because if you break down the quantum chips and the precious metals that they use, it's about 14% gold and like 9.5% silver. They require high conductivity. So I think that we're watching this entire shift in the financial world, and it won't be overnight. It'll certainly be over a half a decade, maybe 2 decades. But I think that gold and silver as money will be phased out. As an investment, they'll always be available. But I think that if you touch back on why these centralized hubs for precious metals were created, they weren't created to hold your money. They were created to centrally hold products for producers. And now that's probably 80% of the precious metals held in COMEX and stuff like that is for producers. But there's also high net worth individuals that use it just to store money. And I think they're the ones pulling down. The producers can't stop pulling down. You need increasingly more silver, increasingly more gold for industrial production. And over enough period of time, I think Bitcoin wins out hands down simply over that time frame, primarily based on the growth of the network and the stability. But again, that could be a long period of time.
So store value basically goes, the people using silver as a store of value eventually, hypothetically, take that store value to Bitcoin instead of silver, based on a number of reasons.
Sure, assets rotate. I mean, the most people who invest, your wise investors take profits. That's the only time profit is realized is when a profit is taken. Other than that, it's just an appreciation of net worth. But I think what you watch over time is that the markets have become increasingly ADHD, where people want to move money to get better returns in other places. Like buy and hold, long-term holders are a very small percentage of the market anymore. So will that money move out of silver into Bitcoin at some point? Sure, a portion of it, not all of it. That's a guarantee. Like it'll certainly rotate into something else from silver at a certain point. But there's also so many mechanisms they can use. Massive shorting to suppress the price. They can shut down trading, which they've already done. Or this could be a very clever tax play as well. If you know that there's not enough physical silver to be called in for delivery, and you start handing out checks, that's a taxable event. If you own silver and it goes up 1,000% and you call your silver, there's no tax. If you get paid out in cash because they didn't have the silver, that's a massive capital gain. So we don't really know what's happening there, but I think the adjacency to Bitcoin could be from the education that when you demand physical delivery, like it's been a well-known thing in conspiracy circles for 20 years, that if 3% of Americans actually went to the bank and demanded cash, the entire banking system would collapse. They just don't hold the cash, just like these repositories don't hold the silver. So at one point, could people realize that, hey, if we all demand our silver, the price goes up and we have massive wealth? I think that spawns right into Bitcoin that's being held on a paper market as well. Thoughts to think about.
Thanks, Eric. Y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, brother. Merry Christmas and God bless. Let's wrap this up here. It's 2:00. This is 3.5 hours. 2:00 is kind of my limit on these things. I've still got some stuff to do around the house to get ready for everybody coming over tomorrow. Hope all of you are experiencing the same thing. So Javon, is it Javon? Is that how I pronounce that? No, it's not your real name, but like how would I pronounce 1983?
Yeah, it's just a play on my actual full name. I guess it would be J Van J.
J Van J, kick us off here. Closing statements for the rest of the crew who are here with us today before we hop into Christmas Eve.
Buy, put it in cold storage, and hodl. Like you said, it's not a short-term play. 4 years, 8 years, generational wealth.
Love it. Husky, close us out here today.
Yeah, I just want to say blessings to you and all your families, and Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. God bless you. Merry Christmas as well. Bit Blanca, and then Coin Bazaar.
Yeah, no, hey, thanks for putting all this on. Really appreciate it. Merry Christmas to everybody. Keep it up. We got a lot to look forward to in 2026. Have fun with your family and friends, and we'll see you on the other side.
Absolutely. Coin, kick us out here today.
Yeah, hi. Merry Christmas, prosperous New Year to everyone, prosperous year to everyone, and probably if you get a chance, probably I'll say one thing, Eric. I'll ask everyone to be at Coin Bazaar, use it for once, get some sats, experience your wallet, experience the things. Probably you know that I can find how Bitcoin works, or how you can use your Bitcoin in your day-to-day life. Probably you can have much more chances of what you have experienced earlier. Probably we can go ahead and make sure that okay fine you would be elevated in one way or the other. That's all I can say. Thank you.
All right. Gen X, kick us off here.
All right. Hey, Bitcoin's fun. We're all navigating an interesting point in time together. We happen to be here. Don't forget that you only have time with like family and you can't go back on that. So you have time to stack, you have time to work, navigate, but you don't get certain years back with the kids.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thomas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope people enjoy the time with their family. It's a good time here as we close to the end of the year to step back, zoom out, and just get some perspective on how you're going to operate your life and what you're going to do, how you're going to spend your time, your wealth, and your focus in 2026 and beyond. So it's an exciting time. A lot more opportunities than there are risk, but it is a dynamic landscape ahead of us, and it certainly beats boring. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, boring is not on the bingo, or is on everyone's bingo card to not be a thing the end of this year or next year. I think we're going to see exciting times. I think everyone here has stated accurately that family is the reason for our gatherings here in the next few days. I hope all of you just have warm time with your families. I hope you have great conversations with your families. Keep politics out of it. It's just a ridiculous brain rot for the entire world to go through. Politics is a poison. Your family is the cure. Get together with them. Pray for others at these times of the year. Super important. There are a lot of people that are hurting. Many people around this country and many countries around the world are struggling right now. So pray for them that they get through these difficult times. Do something nice for somebody in the next couple of days that they didn't expect. Don't ask anything for it in return. Just be a good person. The world is filled with good people. If you can't find one, be one. I think that's an important old saying to think about at these times. But guys, these are exciting times. They may appear scary. Change is scary to people. We're certainly going through change. That's obvious. Technological, societal, financial. There's a lot of change that's coming. And the thing that'll keep you grounded is having people around you that you know, love, and trust. You have a chance to exercise that right that you have to be around them. Use that for every minute that it's possible. The young kids in your family, spend time with them. The elders in your family, learn from them. I think it's so important to put those together. But most importantly, I hope all of you just have an incredible Christmas. I hope that you stay warm if you're in the upper states. If you're down here, I hope you stay cool. It's about 79 degrees. It's supposed to be in Texas, and I'm in the North Texas area, so it's supposed to be about 90 in South Texas on Christmas this year. And I think that these times, especially when things are so chaotic, are just a blessing and a gift in your life to be able to unplug, unwind, and just be around people you love. Do that. I highly advise all of you. Everyone here is going to check their phone, Bitcoin price, or they're going to check social media or whatever. Just limit it as much as you can. On Christmas Day, shut it all down. Celebrate the birth of Christ if you're a believer. That's what the season is all about. Be thankful for the things that you have in your life. Prepare for the new year. My kids asked me at dinner last night, what was your favorite thing in 2025? And they all had an answer real fast. And I had to think about it. I'm still thinking about it. Really think about the blessings you've had in this past year, not the curses, not the crazy things that are happening in Washington, D.C. They don't matter in your life. Really, what are you thankful for as you prepare for Christmas and then into the whole new year? Take that time, love your families, love God, pray to Him. He's always there for you, and hope to see you again here on Spaces. I know Dark is going to host one on Christmas Day. I will not be on that, but if you're on the phone, on the internet, please feel free to hop in Bitcoin Today. We always have good conversations. They're not for everyone. There's going to be bits and pieces for you. Take the bits and pieces that are good for you and learn from it and apply it. But until the next time we're on here, thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the speakers that came up here. Follow all these guys. They're great guys. Great insight. Listen to as much as you can. Take away the good pieces and use it in your own life. But until next time, God bless you all. And we hope to see you real soon. Have a good one, everybody.